Okay, let's call the select board meeting for Tuesday, May 26th to order at 7:03 p.m. Okay, get my agenda up here. Any changes? Review the agenda. Any changes, Val?
Nope.
Okay. So if everybody could just mute themselves, and then when you want to talk, either raise your hand or wave or send me a chat or something or other. God, I already got 5 chats. Okay.
It's me.
Okay. Next, we have water and sewer district meetings.
Well, public forum.
Oh, sorry. Yes, public forum. Does anybody have anything they would like to say on our public forum? That would take less than 5 minutes. Okay. Water and sewer. Let's put on our commissioner hats. Review the budgets, operating budgets, capital budgets, upcoming projects, consider adjustments to rates and general issues.
So hopefully folks had a chance to see the material that's posted on the town's website for this item. It's in the select board meeting minutes section of the website. So there's proposed budgets, there's the excerpts from the town report, and a number of other documents. We can do screen sharing if that would be helpful. But I would propose to turn it over to Jen and Jill and Cyrus in terms of water and sewer, because they've been working very, very closely on the nuts and bolts, literally, of the budgets and the projects coming up.
How about it, you guys? I'm happy to turn it over.
Do you want to pick one to start with? Do you want to just pick a budget first?
Well, you tell me, would it be better to start with you or?
I mean, I think it'll be easier to talk about them individually. Jill and Cyrus,
Okay.
do you agree?
So water first.
So let's do water first.
Yes.
So basically this budget is just really showing our spending trends over the last couple of years. Basically, we've continued to increase our contracted services a little bit. So last year we kind of took that brunt of, increasing that line to get it to our actual spending. And this year we're just really kind of, the big spending increase is the supply line, which, puts in line with the supplies that are needed to get some of these, updates and repairs done. With the idea, hopefully we can continue to contract, with ourselves, with the highway department, but knowing that sometimes that's not realistic, either in the event of an emergency or in the timely fashion. We need to get things done and they have stuff going because we know they're busy. So that's kind of where that contracted services line comes into play.
So Jen, quick question on the contracted service line. Are we over so much this year? Was that because of the East Street issue we had, the water line issue we had down there?
I mean, in retrospect, when you look at it, it was pricey, but a lot of things got accomplished. So, there's the advantage and the disadvantage. It just, it definitely came in, I think, higher than expected, due to having to chase the hydrant and not quite knowing where that line was. And then there was that emergency leak that ended up happening at the top of Basin Street while that project was going on, which turned out to be quite a pricey emergency to fix. So that is basically the majority of that line at the moment.
So we're hoping that it doesn't go up. I see we have it at the same amount as we did budgeted for this year. So I'm assuming we're hoping that's the same. We're not going to be over.
We are hoping, Jill and Cyrus and I had just talked about, tackling some projects now with the idea that we hold on and, pray and hope for good winter. And then, come springtime, see where we're at and see where the budget's at.
Okay.
What else we would accomplish in the spring and kind of split the split the work as much as we can and reserve that so that we're not, totally fully expended before we in time.
Jen, do you have the detail on what we had broke out into those two pieces? Because if not, I can quickly print that.
I have it right here.
Okay, because what we're trying to do is utilize the town services and then our discounted rates as much as possible to get a big chunk of work done in the coming fiscal year, but with nice low rates so that we can just have a pocket for emergencies and try to get a bunch of planned work done this year. I just want to see the breakout. I know we worked on it last week, and I just want to make sure that I'm speaking to Jen's final version and not some of the iterations in between.
Sorry, it's just taking me a second. I'm not gonna lie, I don't know how to screen share, so.
That's okay. I think it's
I'm not even
4 or 5 main items, and I think it's important for them to understand what we're trying to get done with those budgets in this coming year.
Jen, can she screen share, Val, if she's not a host?
I could make her a co-host.
Make her a co-host, because otherwise you would see it down the bottom of your screen, Jen. It'll say screen share.
But I'm on I have my laptop going.
Oh.
I'm on my desktop because my desktop doesn't have a
camera, right?
Yeah, so the descriptions are right in the top section on the right where it's, I've got another computer. I'll just open it.
So if you want to continue on, Jen, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's totally fine. So what Jill and I had talked about, and then Joel had kind of been in the loop on this, was some things that we kind of wanted to tackle. And Joel, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you and Cyrus and Jill had talked about goal of hopefully replacing 2 hydrants a year. Is that right? Is he muted? I can't.
Yeah, he's going to
Yes, he
unmute
did.
himself.
Okay.
There you go.
That was a goal we had many years ago, and I know we've still got a few left over, like Elm Street, and there's a couple more around
Yep.
that could be done.
Right.
I knew you were going to want to know that. That's why I wanted to give the detail on this.
Yeah, so I found it, Jill, because I printed it.
Yahoo!
So the supplies include, doing 2 hydrants, so all of the stuff that goes with that. And it looks like Elm Street is the top of the list, A, because of paving, and B, because it's conditioned.
Wicked super old. It only has 2 of the smaller. It doesn't even have the larger pump truck nozzle or on it. So.
And then the hydrant that's down on Rockydale that's not working at all, Cyrus had suggested we replace with a flushing hydrant, just to be able to, move water through the system. So that is, with labor and material, about $5,000 is what Jill and Cyrus had come up with for that.
Mostly because we want to leave room just in case we have to do any kind of traffic control or paving in any of these projects, depending on how far back we have to come to the main. So we left enough space, but also we're trying to do, and the reason you're seeing the budget have a heavier supply line is we want to try to get a bunch of work done, meaning get some new hydrants in, get the flushing hydrant in. There you go. Whoop, that's that one.
And then it looks like working on some valves. So they say 3 valves, which is pipe, bedding.
Whoops. Holy dog. We got dogs jumping through screens here.
So
Yes.
to do that, they said that material and labor is about $10,000. And these are all just estimates.
Mm-hmm.
And then they proposed 10 valve box, curb stop repairs, and replacement box, which again is the pieces, parts, possible paving, soil, seed, mulch, etc., along with excavation. And those come out to about $15,000, based on what Jill had given me for numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So again, all goals to accomplish with the idea of whatever reality ends up being we're going to have to adjust accordingly. This would be an ultimate, I basically said, I think a good thought process would be to come up with the wish list of things we'd like to get done, and then try to work through the wish list and the priority list all together while monitoring the budget.
So can we go back up to the income or the rents? Are we, I see, I know we have another one due, correct, before the end of this year?
So we'll bill in June. We're going to do another reading here in a couple weeks.
So is that going to make up $70,000 for what our current budget is and what we are actually?
I hope so.
Well, I'm just looking at what we're proposing, and I'm thinking, okay, we're not even going to make that this year.
Right. I guess it's really kind of, there's hope, I guess, because people have been home, so potentially water use is higher.
Mm-hmm.
Now sewer is kind of having the opposite effect, which we can talk on
Mm-hmm.
later, but the usage will be a little bit higher, but it's kind of, best guess in hopes of we get what we need to, we budgeted what we thought we were going to take in.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, I guess my question is what do you think is going to be different in 2021? Are you thinking we're going to have a rate increase?
Oh yeah.
Okay. All right.
Sorry. I guess I didn't write that on the sheet. So the proposed budget is an increase of about 6.6%. And the rate increase will actually have to be a 6.9% increase for users, which I have some numbers on that. Let me find them here. So based on if this were to be the approved budget, let's see here. It would be an increase of about $4.07 a quarter, which is still under $20 a year.
Okay. I have two questions. Is this percentage of budget, water services and miscellaneous revenues, are those percentages right? 208 and 209%?
Well, we've taken in $1,000 in water service, and then
wow.
So.
Okay. The other question is, when do we usually get the money for the Sugarwood revenue?
We just got some, or Don Gale just called the other day.
Okay.
It should be arriving, I imagine, shortly, but why is that not in there? That's strange. That should be in there. So there's something missing there. Because that should be on there, because that's another $950. Sugarwood's revenue. That's strange. Because that's another, we budget another $950.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I remember seeing it on
that's missing.
Something I was looking at. Okay.
Proposed budget. So, but $950, I don't think is going to drop the rate.
No.
As much as I wish that it would, but so I guess the proposal on this, as Jill and Cyrus and I were talking through it earlier, is really just kind of an ideal, it accomplishes, what we feel like the water department should be accomplishing and not just trying to skate by, which is just a progressive goal that we've reached over the years, by slowly increasing the rates. I don't know, I guess, do you guys have questions? More questions?
Question about, and this might be for Jill, some of the capital issues with the pump house, the generator, and the control panel.
Mm-hmm.
How, I know that's in our capital plan, those are pretty major expenses. At some point, should we talk about how we would go forward with that?
Yeah, and is this the meeting where we talk about that? So I never see it on this budget besides it being an expense out of $25,000. I seem to see it when you guys do the town budgets and it goes into the report for March.
Right.
So I think that we're, Jen, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we have over 100,000 in capital.
Yep.
Right about now, and there's 25 a year going in. Every once in a while, things get a little heavy and they get pulled out of that account. But I think that we're planning on, like you said, the control panel upgrade, the generator upgrade, and possible change out of a large pump at the pump house if it is feasible by hydrologically feasible. So those are the things that I believe are supposed to be in there. And I think it's a matter of comfort when you guys want to move forward with those projects. I know most of the base of the control panel is original 1995. I think the mission system itself is a bit newer, but the actual panels on the walls with the motherboards in them are quite old. And the generator is original to the original construction again. So we're at 25 years right now on those big pieces of the system.
Jill, the generator also is 25 years.
Yep, it's original to the pump station. Yep. Yep. So each year.
What major work have we had done to that?
So most recently, Cyrus remembers the part names better than I do.
We've been keeping up with service and pieces and parts. We did the alternator belts, coolant hoses, and coolant flush was the most recent, I believe.
And then there were some things that had to do with the temperature control sensor that kept making a cold water alarm go off.
Oh, preheater.
Okay, that was replaced this past year as well.
That's just basic maintenance stuff, though.
Yep.
Basically.
Yep. Maintenance stuff, and so far it's been smaller parts, which we've been pretty grateful for.
And what they say when they come and they service that thing is, man, I don't know how much longer we're going to be able to get parts for this old relic. And, you know, it's the standard anytime you bring anybody in for service, but it is 25 years
Service
old.
or Milton Cat?
What's that?
Does Milton Cat service that or Brookfield?
Nope, that's our generator company we use.
Brookfield Service, right?
Brookfield Services, yep.
Yeah, Brookfield.
So it's that
Cat
20,
diesel generator, right?
Excuse me, sir?
That's a Cat diesel generator?
No, that's a,
I thought that was a Cat.
It's in the asset management spreadsheet. I'll check it out.
It is the Milton Cat, but I don't think it's diesel, right?
no, it's a diesel generator.
I think it is, yeah.
Milton Cat has done service on it, but it's a Generac, I believe, is what it is.
I think you're right.
I'm pretty sure.
so what's the given? So that's on 25 years for a lot of that equipment, and replacing all of it gets us another 25 years, gets us longer, depending on
Well-
what you replace it with.
Well, I guess that would be the budget constraint you're up against.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because if you look at maybe it's not that funny. Maybe it's just reality. Is that when we look at the asset management that was done by Green Mountain Engineering a couple of years ago, they put like asset life cycle costs and asset lives on all the different assets that the water system has. So it's like certain things are supposed to be 50 years. Other, like a water line is a certain number of years. But at the pump house, they're considering, there it is right there, pump house. The generator is considered it's a Generac. It's a 15-year useful life. So its useful life was 10 years ago. So
Because it's beyond.
right. So again, it's a number that's been assigned. It's not necessarily dead on to when it needs to be replaced, but it's kind of it's an aim. So I mean, we're 10 years past its useful life in the asset management plan. Our chlorine contact tank is 50 years, a 50-year life. We've got 26 years left on that one. There's a lot of things that when you read it, it says that we should be replacing it, but I don't know a single water system that can actually keep up with an asset management plan to, a measured useful life of this sort.
Now, for the pump house, it has one of the highest uses for electricity. Looking at our meters, is there a way to improve that with replacements that you're looking at, or is that something separate?
When we're looking at the upgrade of the panels, we're talking about installing VFDs, and that will ramp the motors up and run them at different RPMs to change your power.
Yeah.
The pumps that are in there right now, though, are centrifugal, and they're best to run wide open. They're the most efficient at wide open. So that being said, it's really just comes down to an energy study, I believe, and however those go.
Right. We had a preliminary discussion with Green Mountain Engineering, and it is something that they're willing to work with us on. It's just, it makes sense to align updating controls and pumps and energy upgrades within the same project, because you're working with an electrical a contractor, you're working with a computer supplier, you know, an IT contractor, controls contractor. So it's kind of the same skill sets. And then you've got one person possibly in doing some of the pump work.
So is that what you guys are thinking? Is that part of the projects of doing this year?
That's in the capital budget. And then
Right.
we're kind of at your, you know, we're just wanting to discuss with you guys when you want to move forward. We can tell age-wise in comparison to the asset management plan that we're getting pretty old. We know that one of the last items that we had to get for the control panel that particular item was available, but they kind of said, be careful, because we're getting to the point where pieces of this motherboard are not available anymore. So we're heading into that, you know, antiquated stage with our controls.
When you roll in the middle of the night and trying to fix stuff and you can't get anything because they don't make it anymore.
Yeah.
Now, we did get one quote from a company for the control panel replacement, and we're still waiting on a second quote from another company.
Yep.
Yes.
So that's a partnership between two companies that are working through their numbers and a little laggy in their response.
What do we expect?
Hmm?
Sorry, Jill. What do we expect for a number there, Valerie? Without giving it away.
Yeah. What would you think, Jill? Something we can put out there? It's in the capital plan, actually, on page 68 of the town report. There's a link to it on the website too.
My town report out. Page 60.
And I know that the generator, we estimated around $50,000.
You better add about 25 to that, I think.
Probably right.
Well, we just priced one at National Bank for main office from Brookfield Service. Natural gas was $77,000 all hooked up.
Yeah, but that building's way bigger than ours usage-wise, isn't it?
I doubt it for usage-wise.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's all about peak amperage, which you're going to pull for peak.
Your electrical bill is about the same as ours is a month, so you're using about the same kilowatts.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm just saying ours was $77,000 to put it to a new Kohler natural gas one.
Ouch.
The panel replacement
you can get
estimated
numbers
around
for people.
80,000.
And then you wait, and then all of a sudden you get back to it, and those numbers have grown from time to time.
Yeah,
Is
inflation.
what we find.
Well, that pretty much takes care of your capital fund, though.
Gobbles it right up.
It's not going to take long to spend $100,000. That's why it's like, do you guys want to? How much do you want to bite off?
Where do you want
And
to
how
put?
much cushion do you want to leave? Because if we bite off trying to do the control panel and the generator with the VFDs and possibly needing to change, I don't know, would we need to change pumps, or can we VFD on the current pumps?
That's something we need to figure out.
Okay. That would eat it all up really quickly.
Mm.
And it may actually need more. So my assumption is that there's not just another pocket of money sitting somewhere else, that we need to spend below the threshold and not above the threshold.
That would be a good assumption, but
What are the grant
decision without numbers.
What are the grant opportunities, Valerie? Anything out there that would cover something like this, or parts of something like this?
There's Efficiency Vermont
Hmm.
grants, and Valerie, you've got some experience in this too. What do you know about?
Well, they're limited. The Vermont Emergency Management used to have 50% grants for generators, but I haven't seen that in quite a while. And I wonder if, Alan Heinziger, do you have any insights into other funding sources through the state, CWSRF, DWSRF?
Well, they would be eligible for project financing. I think there is another grant program that we just helped the village of Marshfield with a new generator. at their facility, but it wasn't replacement of an existing one. So, but I can check into that and see if that's a possibility for you.
Well, isn't it really a new generator? 'Cause this one's about at its
You
life.
know, every grant program is different. They have all different requirements, so you never know.
Right, right. If you're putting your first generator in, it's being required that you're deficient. So your sanitary survey would show that you're deficient in not having backup generator. So he's saying it creates an eligibility due to deficiency.
Right.
We don't currently have a deficiency. We just have a very old
generator.
generator.
Okay.
What you think if we did the enunciating panel first, or the panel, because without that working, you can have a generator that's brand new. If that panel's not working, electricity ain't gonna do any good anyway. I think we'd put our money into the panel first and see what money we have left for a generator at a later date, maybe.
Yeah, that's good. And I think power outages across the state have been less than full days. They've been hours versus full days. And we're about 2 to 2.5 days of storage up in our water reservoir. And I imagine if we had a power outage, people might slow their water use down. So we are 100%, once we get up to the water tank, it's 100% gravity fed to the entire system. So there is a little bit of cushion in that. It's just once the tank is empty, that would be pretty catastrophic.
And that generator uses something like 12 gallons per hour or something like that. It's like an M1 tank.
Yeah.
I do know, Jill, we looked into it with Brookfield Service, and we're on a 24-hour, they can have us a backup generator on wheels delivered to our site in 24 hours hooked up.
Wow.
Service should pay for that. So
Right.
something to keep in your back pocket.
Okay. Well, it's good to know that there's a service like that available, because you just
Brookfield
never.
offers that service. We have a contract with them for that.
Okay.
Does anybody else have any other questions about the water budget?
Well, at what point do we vote on the budget and the increase in rates?
I'll make a motion that we accept the proposed budget. I mean, am I looking at 4 or 5? I still think, I have people tell me we have the cheapest water in the state. Some of the cheapest water in the state. Now for the bigger users, they're going to see a little bit more, but $4 or $5 every quarter for me, for the average user.
Yeah. I mean, we
can't let the system go to hell.
puts you, it still puts you on about 70, it ups you to almost $75 a quarter, which is still cheaper than a lot of places that have a minimum use of 90 plus.
Right. I mean, if you think about what you can buy for $25 a month, water's pretty important. So that's not a lot of money to pay.
Valerie or Jill or Jen, what did we see for revenue side from the new water hookup down to Woodland Apartments?
So let me pull up my sheet here. I've been keeping track of it because there's an agreement that you all have to hold that rate.
Right, I was gonna say, there's a rate lock, right?
Yeah, for 10 years.
For 10 years.
Do a credit on their bill each quarter to get them back to an original rate that they locked in at. Where is it here? So they're averaging like their lesser bill is around 1,700 and their higher bill's almost 2,000. So anywhere in that range.
So conservative, they're paying probably around 7,500 a year, 4 times a year. 1,700 a month or a quarter.
Yeah, so like, yeah, it's probably 7,000, a little bit under if it was 17.
So that's at least a third of the increase here. Okay, we got some of that last year. I realized that. We were planning on that when we talked this like 12 months ago. We talked about the budget that we were going to get some revenue from them.
Yeah, the problem becomes, Joel, is that we have to hold this rate for them. So
10 years, right?
I
Yep.
basically average out what they
I thought it was
a
5.
year, and then I pull that out of the revenue and then figure out what everybody else has to make up as a difference. Just kind of, I mean, if somebody has a better way, I'm happy to do it, but that's the best way I can think of that's going to keep them at a rate hold and not get us under budgeted for revenue. Because if I just take the lump sum and I increase it by whatever the budget increases, that's including them as a revenue, and then then we will under collect. So I'm trying to find out how close we can get to collecting at 100%. And obviously, it's still best guess because it's all usage, which we're one of the systems that are strange in that respect, because we do charge a daily usage, whereas, other systems charge a blanket, like you pay $90 per quarter at least. Whereas our minimum use bill fluctuates because it's on the number of days that we read on. So when Therese was here and she had the gentleman from I don't know if he was from the state or from the company.
Mark Johnson.
Yeah, he analyzed our water rate, and he did say that the way our water rate is structured, while very complicated, is probably one of the better ways, because you actually get a per day usage charge, whereas some places that's not the case. So he suggested keeping it, because I think Therese was trying to consider changing to a flat fee for a quarter if you were under the 100 gallons a day, but then over, you paid an overage fee. And he told her his recommendation was not to change. So the advantage being that we do it per day, so we get everything we bill. Whereas if you say 90 days, but then you can't get to the reading until 100 or 110 days, you miss out on some usage. Whereas when Cyrus is getting to it, he's doing a great job, because he and Jill are getting to it, right on that 90-day mark for the most part. So people are really seeing a minimum use, and there's not this huge fluctuation. So when they get a quarterly bill, it's truly a quarterly bill, and it's, about the same, maybe a couple pennies either way because of the number of days, but it's pretty close, as close as you're going to get, I think, to a 90-day read.
And Jen, do you have a suggested amount to raise, given that looking at the improvements and upgrades that we have to do to the system just to keep it functioning correctly within, in the next 20 or 30 years, how drastic of an increase of revenues do we need?
Well, so your water budget is considered an enterprise fund, so you treat it kind of like a business. So you want to at least make what you bring in, and vice versa. So, as we start to expend, the advantage would be is that maybe we get to the end of next year and we decide to hold off on a couple projects, or maybe a couple new users tie on and we get some more revenues than expected. There's kinds of all those types of things. I guess it's really about, Ian, how big of a rate increase you want to see and how fast you want to do it. I mean, the reality being that doing it at $18, $19 a year, I'd rather see that increase slow over time than you hand me a water bill that's all of a sudden $50 more a year, $60 more a year. I mean, you can make it what you want it, but the next reality is that, you gotta think about all these people and the different types of income
Right.
you have and how that affects those different types of incomes. And, I guess now more than ever, those are the types of things. So by all means, your revenue, you kind of get to pick, you get to decide. This proposal is those projects that I had mentioned in the beginning, plus adding money to your, $25,000 to your capital in hopes to continue to build that, so that, we can tackle these pump house projects. Because I think I had the discussion with Valerie and Jill and Cyrus, that was, realistically, we're never going to save $500,000 to be able to dig up Pine Street, so we need to use the capital money to make progress in other respects of the water system. And I think that biggest one being the pump house. Yeah. We've made some slow moving things happen, but the bigger stuff is coming, and the last thing you want to do is have committed your 500,000 that you've saved or your 200,000 that you've saved to some bigger water project that you're going to ultimately have to bond for and not be able to replace pieces and parts of the pump house that go, and you have to
Right.
have. So it was just more of a realistic conversation about what this capital money could and should be used for. You know, because I think at one time it was the ultimate goal to save a big project, but I just think cost-wise, at this point, it just becomes a little bit of an unrealistic goal.
Right.
Like-
And part of that's,
Go ahead.
go ahead, Jill.
It would be nice to know if Alan Heisinger is seeing anything come through with all of the potential stimulus funding that could come. Is there any advantage to having any kind of advanced preparation for any? Is there any like possible grant money to do any type of
Shovel-ready.
any type of water line work? We've got probably 70% of the town that's 1905 water lines and valves. So the question would be, you know, we're a little hesitant to just start digging up a bunch of valves and messing with them and making you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of damage. When if there's any type of funding that's coming around the corner that would have a big grant portion or a big forgiveness portion, it'd be great to start to line up 1 or 2 streets at a time every 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years to just start pecking away at it.
Upgrade everything to fire suppression.
Yeah, and that is the plan, Joe. We've got a preliminary engineering application in for funding, and that is the key, is to have a preliminary engineering report that outlines all those water line replacement improvement projects that we'd like to do. Having, you know, been involved with the town and with the system for a long time, we all know that Pine Street is our #1 priority, but we don't have an approved preliminary engineering report that ranks all the different streets and the pipe replacement projects by street. And that's what the goal is of the PER that, or the application for funding that we've got and have had in since December, Valerie. It's been a pretty frustrating process to sit and wait for that approval, but because we would have been working on that in January and February if it had been approved.
Okay, I was wondering. I hadn't heard about that, but it's like there's this big elephant in the room, which is how about the distribution lines?
Right,
You know, how
right.
about the distribution, because it's, you know, getting to
It's
be
aged.
115 years old and
Right, and the goal for, you know, like in when the ERA funds came along, being shovel ready is the goal, and to have a PER is essentially being shovel ready in the state's mind. So
Yeah.
if we can be ready for any potential stimulus project that, or stimulus money that might become available, that's in our favor.
yeah, in 2008 and 2009, I saw 40 different projects, about $150 million worth of work get done for about 50% grant. It was pretty beautiful. So I can't help but think that we shouldn't be cowering from being ready for at least a couple streets of waterline projects should there be a potential. And it wouldn't hurt, I don't think, any of our feelings if grant money were to come along.
Alan or Jill, Alan, even with grant money comes along, it doesn't come, take Pine Street, for instance, if it's going to be $500,000, do that street from Liberty to North, and they give us 300,000, we're still going to have to come up with some money on these streets, correct?
Correct, and
So
the goal is to do
is-
some stormwater improvements along the way as well. So there's a little bit of money there that's going to be required. So it's not free unless they come up with an amazing funding package
Right.
for stimulus.
I mean, my thought is, yeah, the 6.9% increase sounds like a lot, but it's kind of like Michelle said about the miscellaneous revenue. When it goes from $100 to $209, it looks like a 209% increase. The 6% now, and then if in a few years they say you're ready and you can have your money and we have to bond, we're going to have to go up again. So I'd like to go up and approve this budget tonight. And I'll make that motion to approve this budget. And so we can get some other stuff done. I would think we could at least get a number for the pump house, not the generator this year maybe, but at least the panel that's 25 years old.
Yep.
And I mean, if the panel goes down, we can have electricity to it. It doesn't matter, a brand new generator. So I say the panel is the #1
Agreed.
and get this budget approved.
Yep.
Then if we have to increase it in a couple of years, if Pine Street holds up that long. I mean, I've been told for 5 years that's going to be ready to do any time now. And Peter should have paved it 10 years, as he said, when he wanted to. And we kept saying, oh no, hold off. Bill said, we're going to put a new water line down through there. It's been 10, 12 years. We still haven't done it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I mean, also, Jen, I think there's another discussion for another night will be when are the current bond payments falling off? Because there's
right.
what, 89,000.
Jill, don't hold your breath.
Is it 5
Well,
years,
that
10
was
years, 20 years?
Going up on the hill is the third.
There's a couple that'll fall off in a couple of years, but not.
The North Street Plank Road one goes off, doesn't it, Jennifer?
Which one is it? Let me look here. I have them right here. So
From Pine Street to north down Plank.
you're saying, let me pull
But the water tower, that was a 35 or 40-year bond. I think it's somewhere around 2032.
yeah, let's see. I think 2010. Yeah, so your 2010 Holly Hall water line bond, that falls off. So this is the last year of that, which is a $10,000 payment. So that'll fall off after this year, or this proposed budget. So in 2020, FY 2022. But along with the West Street project, we we're on a 5-year note to pay 0% planning interest, which is $8,800 a year. So we just have that West Street bond, which is, plenty of years. So that's the thing that's hurting us, in the sense that I know a lot got accomplished, so I don't want to diminish the work that was done by any means, because it was important and needed and necessary. But, that's what's hurting, is that because to do these projects, they're so expensive, and then you're bonding over 30 years. It takes a while to get those paid off. You'll see it potentially decrease, which in my mind means that we shift that money from being in the bond line to the capital line. You continue. I guess I feel like in an ideal world, it would be great to decrease the water rates, but I just don't think it's realistic, because cost of living kind of continues to creep up each and every year. And that if we decrease, then some huge increase has to come later. So I think if we can use that for savings, that would be a recommendation I would make, unless the jump was just outrageous. But I think you all have done a great job, with just slowly increasing it over time, which has just not been a crazy impact for people. People notice, don't get me wrong, but not nearly as much as they would notice if it was 15 or 20% increase.
Right. And speaking to the slow and steady, it's also something where if you're able to notify, obviously, users and let them know well beforehand that this is happening and the reasons why, I think there's more forgiveness there, as opposed to, doing it higher to try to accomplish more in the short term versus sort of the long-term goal.
Right. I would agree. So I don't know, do you have more questions, more concerns?
Yeah, Jennifer, when is the bond payment paid off for the North Street Plank Road one?
North Street Plank Road.
2025?
The one with people, Joel?
I'm not sure, Jennifer. Remember we started all the way down around, we were going to go connect with Casella when they were going to have a transfer station there, or reopen the landfill. We went all the way as far as somewhere down by J Drive or past there, most of Hills Farm. It was 85 or 90, somewhere about there. And I thought that was a 25-year bond.
Because I see one. Peeker, can you speak a second to this? There's one that I have in front of me to Peoples that's, over 100, or maybe Alan can speak to it between the two of you. Because your signatures are on all these nice pieces of paper. I'm seeing, it was like, maybe started out at 100. I'm trying to, it doesn't look like it's in order, so. 135.
Well, there was two different ones. North Street and Plank Road are different bonds, I believe.
Okay.
And the reason we did Plank Road was because we had to furnish water to the houses that were within so many feet of landfill.
Okay. Because the North Street that says it's a renovation note, I'm not seeing any real information about what it was for. That one's done, so that one. But do you know if your Plank Road one you did in combination with Septic? Because we have a
No, it
water.
wasn't with septic. And Peaker's right. We had to do that to supply for the new landfill rules for the landfill, all those people. And at one time, it was going to go down to Burpee Road and go Burpee and back up Stony. It was Casella had thought about opening up the Vicon landfill again.
Right.
That was in
Yeah,
the 90s, wasn't it, Peter?
I can't remember the years either, but I do know that if you did do a project, let's say on Pine Street next year, your bond payments wouldn't be starting until the year after. So, we need to get the plans together so that we can at least, be shovel ready again for any stimulus money that might come along. But then recall that your bond payments aren't due till a year after final completion. So it's a couple of years out.
Right. And that, I mean, I guess that's the biggest piece is that, if we can, work together in trying to figure out estimated costs, and then, you can shift, obviously, to get these bigger projects done. At the pump house, I'm referring to, that there's the chance that you could lessen your capital contribution a little bit with the alteration of that you had to bond for some money, and that that money gets reallocated to a different line. I just if the understanding is that we're going to continue to use the capital line and the capital money to do pump house, if we can get the pump house pretty well squared away in a few years, I think it's totally realistic to potentially bond for some more money if we can get Pine Street done and the engineering piece of it done, and all of those things kind of come together at once. And maybe there's some stormwater money and things like that, as Alan just said, basically be ready to go. But I do think no matter what big project you're going to do, assuming it's Pine Street, because that's what we all continue to talk about, you're going to unfortunately have to bond for that. I don't find a realistic way for us to have the funds to do that just ourselves.
Right. I just, I'm very much in support of at least having one, if not two projects. Shovel ready really just means design, which Alan can speak to this even more than I can. The study and design is probably like 20% of the cost of a project. Construction is the other 80. So if you got to the point where the stimulus funds weren't there, at least you're ready to go when there is a better funding source. But if you're not ready, all the other towns that are ready and have their infrastructures ready are going to get the money because they're shovel ready. They had the vision. They're getting free money that you're not going to get. So it's kind of like, it's a really careful dance of having a couple things ready and spending a little bit of money, but not taking a big fat chunk and a bite until you know that you're able to get some forgiveness for a good sized portion of that.
What do we, Jennifer, I can't see all the proposed water budget. What do we got in the bond payment?
It is, let me find
Bond payment.
$85,000.
And next year, 89.7.
89.7, yep.
Okay.
So that's your USDA payments, your North Street, your water and sewer payments, but your sewer part of it is not in this budget. It's in the sewer budget. And then the planning loan that you got for West Street that was 0%. Now the project's complete, so now you got to pay on that, which is another $8,800 a year, and that's a 5-year note.
So out of that 89,720, what is the last payment of a bond like Plank Road or one of those you mentioned that maybe not be the last year's payment?
That's a $10,000 one, right?
$1,000 one that's paid off. So this budget will pay off a $10,000 note that's the balance left on a note, and then that will drop off, so you'll be down
Well, I'm trying to, so if Alan had, let's say, Pine Street ready, get it ready to shovel ready, he needs 10 grand to get that, all the preliminary design and things done.
Right, and that's $300,000 over 30 years. So if you think about that, if it's a $600,000 project and we can get a 50% grant, you get $300,000 for free. And again, it's kind of the dreamy prospect, but at least if you're ready for it.
So Jill, you're saying that's a $600,000 project, so it's 20%. That'd be about 120,000 of design cost. Alan, don't let me speak for you if that's.
I could be off. Alan could speak to that more than I can. It may only be like 10%. I know construction is a very, very large portion of every project.
But engineering, is typically in that 20 to 22% range, but that includes the construction phase engineering as well. So the design is more like 12 to 15% of that portion. So
there we go.
But it does vary by complexity of projects. So, but the planning work is done through the planning loan fund at the state of Vermont. So you've got that at 0% interest for a number of years. That money is, and some in recent history, a lot of that planning money has been forgiven, or planning loan has been forgiven. So it doesn't cost you anything to plan right now for these projects out of pocket, really.
They only want their money back if you move forward with it.
Right.
So Alan, is that the thing you've been waiting for since December? That's what, so it's not like we're sitting on our heels, we're waiting for the state.
Right.
Okay.
And we've checked in, and Valerie's checked in with Celia 2-3 times now over the last couple of months, and it's somewhat frustrating. I really don't know what her work situation is or what their workload is, but I've seen her respond on other projects, and I assume we're in the pile somewhere, but it doesn't seem to be near the top.
So I guess a question for you then. So if you got notification by next Monday, June 1st, they said, we've looked over your payment or looked over your thing, and you're in the queue, and we got to have your designs and everything by July 1 or August 1. Is that realistic on your end? Or if that
Joel, this is just for the preliminary engineering portion. So this is where we take the entire village water system and come up with costs like we did a few years ago, and rank projects based on priority and what we recommend a recommended project would be. We're all been assuming it's going to be Pine Street, but maybe it's going to be something different. And it also included a hydraulic analysis of the system to get that updated for the town as well. So we would know if we can put a hydrant on a street that might have a smaller main, if the hydraulic analysis might allow us to do that and replace some of the existing hydrants on the smaller main streets if we're not going to replace those streets right away. So it's not a final design of anything. It's really the preliminary engineering report to get it on the state list and get it ranked so that we can apply for the money.
Yep. Yeah. That's the PER is the full step 1 though. And then you go right to step 2.
Right. And then step 2 is final design. So we would do a recommended project out of the PER, or a list of projects in order, in priority. And then we would then go to step 2, which would be final design of that first recommended project. And that's where the 12% might come in. If it's a $600,000 project, that's when the final design might be 12% in that ballpark of the total project cost.
Jill, I guess I'll ask you inside then. When we keep saying Pine Street, are we putting the cart before the horse? Are we just going to put a new water line down through there because it's leaking, or because we all know the street's in such terrible shape?
No. It's like, there's like 5 reasons. Number 1, it's a 1905 water line and valves. I mean, that's reason number 1. It's very, very, very old. Number 2 is that if we're going to dig it up, it's the time to dig it up, to also do the stormwater infrastructure, to replace house services if that can be included in the project, so that we're getting rid of any potential leaks. And then you get beautiful new pavement at the end.
Right.
So it's kind of like,
My
you're
point
getting,
is, do we have some now sprung or leak that have pretty good pavement under them?
But didn't Alan do this nice little report for us that ranked all these
Right.
leaks in the
Exactly. And West Street was number 1 and Pine Street was number 2 the last time we ran.
Okay.
yeah, I've read it. It has all the cost estimates in the back of the report.
Sorry, Peter, I didn't mean to jump in front of you there.
That's okay.
Okay.
So where, Jen, where are we at with this budget? You're at 6.9%
For a user increase, yep.
for user increase. So, and that accounts to about $4 a quarter.
Correct.
So if we went to 8, we would be in the neighborhood of $5 a quarter.
Let me just pull out my sheet here. I can do it quickly. You said 8%?
Yeah.
Our dogs like these Zoom meetings better than us going to the town office.
All right, while she's figuring that up, I got a question for you and Jill. When Therese was here, we started a program and we did all the commercial users first, new touchpads, because we all thought, we were convinced that the touchpads were way off and that was going to save us thousands of dollars. And obviously, I don't think that is materialized because we haven't continued to, we had a 5-year plan 3 years ago to replace all the touchpads in the village and on the system.
The meters.
We've only done the users now, right? The big users or the commercial users on the sewer.
And then residentially, I think we've done anywhere from 5 to 10 a year, because there will be ones where they just don't have a read that makes sense.
Right.
Usually when I get a service call into someone's home is when I get the opportunity to change the meter and when I do it.
Okay.
Yeah. Are you done that conversation, Joel? Sorry.
Nope,
Yeah, so Peter, your 8% is looking at almost $5.50, $5.42 a quarter increase, which comes out to $21.68 a year.
So I guess I'd like to move we accept the budget with an 8% increase in water rate.
I'll second that, Peter.
Hey, any more discussion?
I assume, can I ask a follow-up on that?
Sure.
That the difference that any of that extra money is headed to the capital fund, I assume, or are you putting it somewhere else?
I would say probably the capital fund. I just am nervous the way things have been going, and I don't want to keep ending up short. And if we can get a little bit ahead and get some of the stuff we need taken care of down to the pump house, and so be it.
Okay, so I will put the difference of the increase that it will equate to into the capital fund line that you show in your expense item, with the idea that hopefully we're using that to do pump house things, unless you want me to split it amongst a bunch of different ones.
Well, if it's in the capital, we can use it for, a hydrant if we had to. We could use it for, right?
But you could use it for engineering. I would say that's a capital expense because you're planning for a project, that you are hoping to complete. The capital fund's kind of basically in an ease of terms, a savings account. But the auditors like to see us progressing towards an upgrade or an update or a replacement of something with that, not just an emergency repair, basically.
Well, we've already got more stuff on the list than we can afford, so I think we're safe.
Yeah. I would like to see Jennifer to take the revenue and like you said, you didn't have the sugar money in there yet. And see if that is going to give us a few dollars more.
Yeah, it's about $950, Joel, that sugar revenue is.
Yeah.
Sugar woods revenue.
That's once a year payment.
That goes in there.
That's
And
1
then
year.
I send you guys
That's
a follow-up.
once a year.
That's, yeah,
that-
once a year. So Don Gale pays once a year, and then, is it Bill Orvis?
Yep.
Is that who has tanks up there?
Right. Bill has some tanks there too. I'm not sure what his agreement is. Not what's the federal tap rate.
I think he's a
Don is the tap rate from the federal government, Forest Service tap rate.
right.
And I'm not sure if that has gone up over the
I
years.
thought, Joel, I thought we upped that a couple of years ago with them. We signed an agreement with them a couple of years ago, I think, and we increased the amount or something like that would stay for 3 years or something or other.
Yeah.
Val, do you remember that?
I think it was for Valerie's, just before Valerie's time.
Yeah, it might have been with Therese,
When
but
Peter was interim.
What you're saying, I think it's that you signed an agreement with them to go by whatever the federal tap rate was. I
it
think
could be.
because every year Dawn submits a nice little chunk of writing saying, here's what the tap rate is for this year. Here's how many times what I'm paying you. And
Okay.
so I assume that to be true because I've never gone up there to count his tax.
How much did you do that this year, Jen?
Other duties assigned.
Yeah, right?
Darn that. Darn that item.
Okay. Any other discussion on this? Okay. All those in favor of passing the water budget? I can't see everybody, so say aye or something.
Aye.
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 Joel, I assume you're good?
Yeah, I said aye.
Okay. All right, good. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Next, sewer budget?
So I tried to stay conservative because we've, gotten to this point and, Alan can speak more to this as far as some engineering stuff goes, but I went along the lines of that there's 30 users and I know we talk about this every year, so I feel redundant, but I'll repeat it, that there's 30 users and, continuing to up that rate potentially can prove to be a hardship for some people. So I was able to finagle it so that we didn't propose an increase. If you want an increase, I'm happy to run numbers to give you an increase. I guess I know there's been talk about all these different things that potentially could be done with the system. I guess I'm unsure of what direction you're trying to head with the system. Are there specific things that you're trying to accomplish or you're trying to save for, or what? I guess I need some more direction from you if you're looking to do a rate increase and where and how you want that to go.
I don't know that, I think without adding to your collection system, you wouldn't have any new sewer to collect from anywhere. So you wouldn't have any new connections. So you'd have to do a collection system project, putting in new manholes and sewer mains to new buildings, which there's really nowhere to build in that area. And then you would then expand your capacity by adding tertiary treatment at the wastewater plant. And I remember some UVM presentation on that and a couple other things, but I don't know if have you guys heard of anybody needing a sewer connection in the downtown area?
No.
Just changes in allocation,
Right, for usages and whatnot.
changes of use.
Right. I don't know. Alan, have you heard anything more about? So, I mean, you just did the inspection in April. It's holding up. There's some areas where the gases in the sewer are starting to eat away at some of the concrete areas, and there'll come a time when that has to get repaired, but I don't think we're quite there yet.
Right. Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a almost 30-year-old system, so it's showing its age, no doubt about it. The counters don't work anymore, but they haven't worked for years. Fortunately,
Yeah.
we have water meters, so we can justify to the state how much is going down to the fields. And
Right.
there's always been this little bit of reserve capacity left, but we've never actually run out. It'd be nice if we had, another 10,000 gallons of capacity, and everybody that owned the building downtown could maybe expand or put more seats in or go up. But it's just not the reality right now. So yeah, it's an old system. It's mostly gravity. It's working okay. It does clog from time to time, and we have to jet it out, and we pump out the septic tank. It's not too complicated.
What you
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. I will say, looking at the splitter box, there will come a time when something will probably have to be done to upgrade or repair it because it is rusting apart.
Right, and that was part of we've done the study before of adding some treatment there, and that would have replaced the splitter box entirely. It wasn't even going to be in the final project because we were going to pump to each field just to get a better distribution. So, but without that project, you're right. At some point something's going to have to happen there.
Yeah. So if we were looked to like 5 years from now or whatnot, I'd see that's coming 5 years from now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And can you tell us what the balance is of the capital fund?
Yeah, can we see that budget, Jennifer?
It's on the screen, isn't it? Oh, no, that's not on the screen.
That's just the operating.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Let me see here.
They're asking what's in the actual savings account.
Val, what I see on the screen is the water budget, not the sewer budget.
Huh.
Don't know how that could have happened.
Cyrus and Jill, how are we doing on the when I get a chance to talk with you guys, it's grease traps seems to be is the bigger. And how are we doing on that? And what do we have for recall? Hit them in a pocketbook if we keep saying to certain users that, we keep coming here and you keep dumping the grease down. We're going to fine you.
We've only had documentation from truly one of the sewer
Walkie
connections.
has been your best guy out there,
Walkie's been awesome.
and he has been on top of it. And I've noticed a difference down at the field just by him being on top of it the way that he has been. Everybody else has been asked to take care of it, and I've gone door to door. I'm just waiting to go door to door and say, all right, now I'm looking for your records. What do you got for me? And then at that point, with or without records, we need to determine whether or not or what is appropriate to take for steps after that.
So Valerie and I did that in October. We asked for the records, and we got pretty well blown off by most of the users that have the internal. So there's, I think, three that I can think of that just kind of went, that direction. No, you're not the right person you need to talk to isn't here, was the answer that we got for them. And the right person seems to never be there. So I do believe that the way that your ordinance is written, you can do what's within your ordinance to maybe send them a nice fine. We haven't received any kind of documentation. We've asked for it this many times. You're being fined X number of dollars. Or
Well, maybe that's when you say, Jill, we're coming back on this day. You better have them or you will be getting a fine.
I mean, that's at your discretion. Yeah. How do you guys want us to handle kind of that next level of getting more strict?
Done it.
Well,
Right. It seems like you need to do, not you need to do more needs to be done. It's not acceptable that they're not answering to us. They're connected to the system. They're potentially damaging and ruining the system with what's going down there. So yeah, I think we need to step up our game on that.
Yep.
Alan, you were saying that the splitter box or something was deteriorating the old concrete. Does the grease have a lot to do with that?
Not really. It's more the gas
Yes. It's
and age.
sulfuric acid, isn't it?
But if we get, Cy keeps every few months climbs in there or sucks it out because it's down in there, and there's one good neighbor on the south end that's doing a great job and the rest aren't. I think we need to say, hey, either we're going to turn the spigot off and shut your water off until we start seeing some evidence that you cleaned your traps and stuff.
Right. And what the grease will do is the grease is going to end up, it can end up clogging some of those gravity mains. It can clog areas within kind of like the incoming spaces, and it can definitely clog around the areas that are inside of the splitter box. And eventually what it's doing is it's driving up the wastewater lab results that we're seeing. It's driving up the fats, oils, and greases in our labs. So there could come a point where the state is like not happy.
Hey, you got too much
But-
fog in here.
Yeah, but I haven't seen anything from the state to say that they're dissatisfied with the wastewater lab results. So it's more of just, it's not, if it ever got to the leach fields, it could clog all the little tiny holes in every single leach line if it made it there. So we don't want it.
Yeah, we've had experiences over the years. The manhole at the base of the hill just above the septic tanks is clogged from, grease buildup in the line, either from that manhole to the septic tank or just in the manhole itself and surface there. So we've had some issues, but nothing too major. But the line between the septic tank and the splitter box right now is, I know you guys had jetted that out recently, correct?
I think, was it last year?
Was that one? That was last year.
Last year we did from the splitter box, and then this year we did.
So the
from,
grease definitely impacts the system. There's no question about it.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So what kind of records would you guys get? I mean, can they just fake them?
Not really. I mean, they need to show, well, I suppose they could, because if they're doing it, so one of the restaurants that's near Walkies said that they're self-cleaning.
Can you say I want a video?
They're self-cleaning. So it's like, okay, how often are you doing it and where are you disposing of it? I mean, where they dispose of it is their problem, really.
Right.
But
I don't think it's inappropriate to ask for video or photographic evidence. Everyone's got a cell phone nowadays. They can take a picture of it after they clean it out and send it to you. It's not the most entertaining thing to look at, but at least you can see that they cleaned it out. And then, or if they have records of someone pumping it, they can show you the receipts, records of receipts from whoever pumped it out for them.
Right. If they're self-cleaning, say I want a before and after.
Right. So Shaw's continues to point to their manager that's not available, and Tandem continues to point to a person that owns the space that's not generally there. So that's kind of where we're at.
I guess, Val, we need to start sending letters saying you need to provide them by this date, or we decide whether we're going to find them or not.
Yeah, I think your use ordinance will allow you to find them. I don't think you can turn their water off, but you can certainly.
Right.
You definitely can't shut their sewer connection.
Do something consistent with the use ordinance.
So you'd have to, I think if you're going to find them, that's all well and good, but you're going to have to amend your schedule, because there's nothing in the schedule, unless it's in the ordinance specifically, that relates to finding and how much you can fine up to.
There's no dollar amount in it that I've seen. It was just that you had the right to.
So,
Well, let's make that high. So then there's movement when they get that letter.
Yeah, there is something to be said for that. You're going to be fined X number of hundreds of dollars. That makes people all of a sudden feel like producing a document.
so I don't know if that would be a requirement to add to your schedule of rates, but it would be nice to have it in that location so that we had the ability to do that. And then I guess the next piece would be, is it Valerie who does the fining? Is it the chair of the board at the time who does the fining? And
Well, it'd be the water commissioners.
municipal ticket? Is it what?
I believe it would be a municipal ticket through the Judicial Bureau.
And I think the fine has to be well above what, if they say, well, it's $100, I'd rather pay the $100 and get $250 from Septic or somebody like that, Dundon's, to come suck out the grease. It's cheaper.
Oh, I was thinking more like 1,000.
Yeah, make it hit them in a pocketbook.
There you go. Turn the screws.
Yeah, because I think it is something like $250 for each time, and I think Walkie's doing it every month. I mean, he's doing
Good for him.
Good for him. Because if the system fails, they're looking at a huge bill to repair that.
Right.
And with 30 users, they think their sewer rate's high now.
Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
So is it a situation of a first, we've asked X amount of times, so now we're going to fine you. So what is that X amount of times? Is it we've asked 3 times, we've asked 3 times in the last so many months. How would that work?
We shouldn't even have to ask them. I mean,
Well,
I thought
agreed.
we had sent them a letter saying, you need to provide this to us every 3 months or something. Did we do that, Val?
We did, and then Jill and I walked around to all the shops, all the businesses, and I had copies of that letter with me to leave with them, which I did. And I think, Jill, our approach at that time was more of a soft touch at that point to reiterate the communication and see what kind of feedback we got, and didn't take a heavy hand that time around.
Right.
Well, no.
So can we send a registered letter saying that you've got so long to comply, and if not, you will be fined, and set the fine at $1,000 if that's where people want to set it?
I think Jill and I should do another visit and see if there's been any progress. And if there has not been progress, then I think we do that.
And
Let them know that this is the last step before they receive a registered letter with
Right. Right.
I would be okay with that.
yeah, and I
I
think
wouldn't even tell them you're going to send them a registered letter. I would just say, you're going to get a fine. I mean, we may do the registered letter, but I would just say the town's going to start fining.
I could be that guy if you want.
be the heavy on.
I could be the heavy hander.
Wear a bulletproof vest.
I think
know,
someone
it's
like,
like send Bruce.
also, I think like Shaw's, you send it to the landlord too. When the landlord knows he's going to get it, they're going to get a fine, and
Yeah.
Yeah, because really, technically, is it the landlord that's responsible, or is it the store?
right.
I don't have a copy of their lease agreement, so I have no idea who took which responsibility.
Well, you send it to them both.
Yeah.
They'll respond.
Say for water that, you can put the water bill in anybody's name, but at the end of the day, whoever the owner of the property is going to end up being, stuck with that bill.
Right.
Whoever wants to take the first shower is going to pay the bill.
If you have tenants and you want them to pay the bill, and then they run the bill up to $500 and run away, the landowner is responsible for that, or the property owner, I should say. But I guess, can I ask a silly question? I'm sitting here looking at our water ordinance, or water use ordinance. Is that pertain to sewer as well? Am I missing something? Do we have a separate ordinance for sewer?
Yes, there's a separate sewer ordinance.
Because I was
Mhm.
thinking, I just don't.
It's
And
a
I
bit
thought we-
vague. It's a bit vague, but it has quite a bit of language that allows you to have what I see as quite a bit of flexibility.
I thought we changed that last year, Valerie. Correct me if I'm wrong. We said, I brought that up. If I continue to pay if I'm Shaw's or Walkies and I continue to pay my water bill, I don't pay my sewer bill. I thought we changed that. If you're a commercial sewer/water user, water/sewer user, that if one was not paid, either one, we could cut you off.
Speaker's
No.
laughing because you can't shut a sewer service without plugging it with a ball.
Well, I know Peaker made the joke last year. You're going to have Cy put a ball in it.
No. Speaker said he'd put the ball in, but Cy had to pull it out.
But didn't
I
we
thought we
Yeah,
changed
that
it.
turd bath again, don't you, Peaker?
Yeah, it wouldn't be the first time we got into it, Cy.
No, sir. I'm having another bout here come the 10th, too. You want to come down and play?
Sure.
Valerie, didn't we get an opinion from
Alan,
maybe who said that we couldn't shut the water off if they were current in their water but delinquent in their sewer?
correct.
But I thought we got an opinion from Kevin Brown that we could.
Alan, do you have some insight?
No, I don't. That's a legal question, and I'm not going to guess.
Alan, have you designed any sewer curb stops?
Nope.
No, it doesn't really work that way. It's real hard.
No, I think we did check with Kevin Brown. I don't remember what the result was, but
Right.
we might want to double check with him because I can't remember.
I could
Right.
call,
We did.
I could call Kathleen Ramsey tomorrow and see what they do in Middlebury. Because we get one bill, water and sewer bill.
Well, that wouldn't work in this case.
Right.
So I have a question about expansion. We talked about that, potential users. Obviously, businesses might change over where you might see someone connect or at least adjust what maybe a prior business, what amount they were using. In terms of expansion, what's the potential for that in terms of going along east and going along west to allow residences to connect? Is it just something where the cost is just overshadows what we would get by new connections?
It's about $500,000 to upgrade so that we can take almost as much again, Alan?
Yeah, that was the upgrade estimate, I think, to take about, half as much again in terms of the upgrade to the plant itself. In order to extend the sewer line, that's another issue. And if you came down to my house, I don't know that I'd connect because I've got an acre of property of pure sand that I can put another septic tank in or leach field in a lot cheaper than paying rates forever. So, it's going to be, I think you're limited to who might want to connect by maybe conversion of some properties to other uses, but it's pretty unlikely too many residents are going to just want to jump on.
Okay.
I think going up North Street was envisioned, and perhaps even on West Street, westward, there might be some interest.
And it was problematic because the way the sewer district was laid out, it made it hard to expand the district. You had to be in a certain block in order to be in the district. That's how the trading post got in.
Right. There was a physical boundary to the sewer district, not consistent with the village boundary. It was smaller.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's called Village Core.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions on the budget?
Jen, do you have the figure for the capital?
Yes. Looks like there's just over $27,000 in there.
So Jen, I have two questions. One is the building overhead and maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're leaving it at 6, but we spent 7. Was there a specific reason we overspent?
That's in water, I think.
Oh, I thought I was looking at this. Okay, maybe it's a maintenance and septic tank. Where we budgeted 20, spent 10 so far, but we're keeping it at 20.
We're keeping it at 20. Last year we proposed the pumping of the 2 cells, and Jill and Sai have scheduled in a couple of weeks to have another cell pumped, so that's going to come. So there's still some expenses to come that should peter that line out pretty close. But I think last year we upped the overage rate to compensate for pumping the 2 cells, which was basically charging the higher users more and leaving our consistent minimum users the same to try to compensate for that increase.
Has that worked out?
Yeah, I mean, so far so good. So it was about 2 months we'll have to move back. So we just billed in May. So when you look at revenues, we're pretty close. So I'll have May and June that I'll have to move back. So we'll come pretty close to some revenues. But I was saying to Sai and Jill that I'm, with COVID having happened and the decrease in the downtown, especially for the restaurants, which are typically those high users, and maybe I was saying it to you as well, Michelle, that I don't know what usage is going to be like for the downtown in the next few months. For these, it'll be great for them in the sense that it'll be less of a bill, but not necessarily great for us because we bank on them using a little bit more water. So there's going to be, I don't know if next year we'll hit that revenue mark unless we come out of this COVID booming here, by fall time or, again, by next spring. Just because just in seeing reads for 1 month, we are not, it's proving that usage has decreased.
Anybody else have any other questions?
Jill and Sai, have you noticed any increase in the sanitizing wipes being flushed down the toilets?
Every
Oh my
single day.
gosh.
Every single day. Every single day we open that hatch and there's a pile of them right in the invert heading into the septic tanks. Yes, every single day. Yep. People are using lots of them.
Whatever.
Lots of them. Lots of them. We had another system that had a pretty big blockage on Friday, and it was a bunch of sanitary wipes, other those blue shop towels that are super fabricy
Mm-hmm.
that made a giant blockage and started to go into people's basements. So it's pretty awful. And it's not necessary. There's garbage cans that people can throw things that aren't flushable into. It's just an education piece.
I don't understand why you would flush it down the toilet.
People
Included
think
the flyer.
that it has, it has feces or urine on it and that it must be flushed because it has feces or urine. They don't think that this doesn't go in a septic.
Oh my God.
It's like you almost want to have like a super drastic Geico-like commercial where you do something super extreme and go, would you flush this down a toilet? And do like really unreasonable things and then go, well, then why are you flushing this down a toilet? Because people are not associating that fabric is not biodegradable toilet paper. It's not biodegradable feces and urine. It lasts for years and years and years, and it's clogging a lot of different pump stations and whatnot at a lot of different municipalities and private systems all across the entire country.
Can we like all get on a class action suit against all the makers of these?
It's a good idea. I mean, I think Green Mountain Waters definitely, and then their bigger company above them, American Water Association, has done quite a bit to try to promote education. But I don't think anybody's lobbied to try to get
change.
Any kind of action at any kind of legislative level or any kind of action at any kind of lawsuit level.
Maybe Ian, maybe at least Bristol Core could send out to you, if it's all sewer, it's all the core members. They please.
I think it's the renters too. I think it's the renters upstairs.
Renters, please don't flush the.
Are there promotional materials that you know of, Jill and Cy, that we could send out to the community via, Front Porch Forum and other?
And their water and sewer bills.
And their water and sewer bills, yeah.
I believe that they've actually been sent out. There's volume 1, volume 2, and volume 3. And I know volume 3 is on the counter, which is like hazardous waste, but volume 1 is cloggers. And it does talk really specifically about the only thing to put down a toilet is feces, urine, and toilet paper. That's it. Nothing else goes down. And it talks about not putting sanitary napkins, not putting flushable wipes because they're not flushable, not putting, other common things that we see in headworks.
Toilet brushes, I found a bunch of those.
Yep, toilet brushes.
Alligators.
How do you even get one down there?
Down to a septic.
The head, it was like this big.
Oh.
Yeah, it looks like somebody was scrubbing and it broke off and they flushed it right down.
They're lucky they didn't back up their toilet.
Aren't they?
I wish they would have.
Vigorous cleaning.
Yeah, when it happens on their side, it's their problem, right?
That's right. All right. Any more questions on the budget? Someone want to make a motion?
I make a motion the budget as proposed to be adopted for the 2021-22 year, 2022.
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Hey,
Motion
before we run away as water and sewer commissioners, I know you have other things to do tonight, but Jill and Cy and I and Valerie, I had chatted with on Friday about changing some wording in the water Appendix B schedule, which is your rates, and changing so in 1.03 is your special fees and charges, and under that is section E, which you have noted forever as swimming pool filling fee. And I was hoping that you guys, and I mean, I'm just asking, and then I'm sure there's probably some bit more technicalities that may need to follow, but if we could change that wording to bulk water purchase fee, because right now, I'm sure as you all know that the state is going to be, getting water off the hydrant at the fire station, and we're going to be charging them to do that. And then there's cost associated with it's a 10,000 gallon threshold. And right now your cost for that is $45, which equates to, not even half a penny a gallon. And so I was kind of hoping that we could align those rates a little better with our water, our increased cost for water, because we still have to pump that water out of the hydrant, and there's administrative time because I'm billing it, or Jill and Cy are dealing with the phone call to come and do that, etc. So I'm just wondering, is there interest, maybe not necessarily tonight, but at your next meeting to address that, and maybe increase that and adjust the verbiage on it so that it reflects a bulk water purchase rather than filling a swimming pool, which it could do both.
Well, first of all, I didn't think the town filled water pools anymore. Second of all, wouldn't that be covered under temporary service?
Well, so so Cyrus and I had this conversation today. So Cyrus, jump in when I'm wrong, and it'll be quick because I know I don't get this right. I said the same thing, Michelle, and Cyrus said to me, now you go, because I'm going to get it wrong. What did you say temporary service
If
was?
we had a sectional line that we couldn't repair immediately, and we had a valve we could shut off in between the areas that we can't repair immediately, we could actually run temporary service from one house to another in a daisy chain type situation, if necessary under an emergency, with the proper piping and whatnot.
Because they're really not having, I guess when I think of service, I think of it feeding like a building or a house or something like that. I don't necessarily think of it as like a service we're providing. I guess that's probably not a good description, but so what I'm thinking of is that as the state's coming and they're needing water for grinding and the projects on Main Street and whatnot, that they're really wanting to just purchase bulk water, and they want it from the town. And so because they want to fill a machine or a piece of equipment that needs the water to complete the tank.
I think you're right. A bulk water purchase is fine with me because I don't think the town fills pools anymore. The fire department used to do it, and I know they don't do it anymore. Yeah. So I don't know how it would get filled without them.
The trick is from the
can't fill. The fire department stopped filling pools because the ordinance says that, or somewhere in the ordinance or in the state rules, the water can't go outside of the water system. So it has to be
from the hydrant.
We can't put it in a truck and deliver it to your pool up on Stonewall Drive now, Michelle, because of the way the rules read. There are cases where people in the water district have filled pools off of hydrants, and that's still done on occasion.
Okay.
And that's what it does say specifically in this schedule. It says swimming pool filling fee, and then in parentheses it says from town hydrant. So there's no vehicle that's bringing the water to a pool. Because I know I asked, and Joel and I had this conversation last summer about filling the pool at our house, and he said we don't do that anymore, which follows, and is in agreement with what Peker said. But we had one request last year that never came to fruition about potentially filling a pool. But the trick is getting, the closest hydrant and running that hose
that far
hydrant to that home. Right. There's no guarantee that there's a hydrant close enough or within reachable distance.
I guess I'd like to see you, Jennifer, you and Valerie, put your heads together and, and do a little research and find out, there's water haulers here in Addison County.
Yeah.
Find out, what do you get for 10,000 gallons of water?
Well, so Joel, funny you should say that.
What's that?
Funny you should say that. I had, brainstormed this probably crazy idea at this point. And I had reached out to Alan Huizenga to see kind of what permitting was needed. And then this has kind of just come to a standstill. And I don't know if it's anything you guys would consider, but I guess I'd be happy to continue researching and figuring out what we'd really need to do. But consider selling water, you know, to water haulers at a bulk rate. You know, so reaching out to freshwater haulers or some people like that and saying, hey, we've got a really good water system. It's really good quality. And Alan, correct me if I'm wrong, but basically you said you don't need a special permit, but you just need to be able to make sure you have a certain number of parts per million for chlorine. So you kind of have to up the chlorine residual. Is that,
Yeah, I think I sent you the section of the rules that pertain to that. But yeah, I don't think a special permit was required. You just needed to document chlorination levels.
Right.
And then of course it's a matter of how do they connect to your water system, and that has to be done safely.
Right.
Question, Jennifer, you said, I see the ordinance here, the amendment is up to 10,000 gallons is $45.
Yeah.
If I put a pool in the backyard and needed 10,000 gallons and I put my hose on it, it's going to go through my meter. What would that cost me? 10,000 gallons, $45 or more? I guess that's.
Well, I think at this point, I guess it kind of depends, because it depends on the rest of your usage. So the trick with our water rate is that it looks at your usage over the number of days that we bill. So if you did 10,000 gallons, like that would obviously put you over, because in, you know, 90 days at 100 gallons a day, you should be using 9,000 gallons max before you hit your overage. So I had thought that, you know, $75 kind of put you in line with almost a minimum use bill, you know, which gets you 9,000 gallons of water. So that, you know, it kind of fell in line with that. But I'm happy to do some more research. But I guess, you know, I don't know enough about it to know if I call freshwater haulers, are they going to be able to give me a price per gallon? And is that price inflated based on other things? Like, do they include in their price per gallon trucking and other things?
They do. I'm sure they do.
So I just don't know.
I guess my personal opinion is to change this to bulk water purchase rather than swimming pool, and reevaluate whatever we're charging, you know, because, you know, maybe we're willing to fill a pool in the village core, whatever district, but maybe they have to get somebody to bring it to them. You know, like you were talking about, Jen, you know, somebody could come in and get the water here, deliver it, but all we're going to do is supply the water.
Yeah. And
I guess my point was, if I put a pool in and I let my garden hose go for 3 days and it got 10,000 gallons, I'm going to pay a minimum of $75.
Mm-hmm.
Why would I want to? I think at least minimum it ought to be $75 there, or even $100.
Right. That's what I was thinking, was that it would just kind of align with the water rates. I think at one point it was cheaper to run it through your hose. When I first started here, it was cheaper to run it through your hose and get charged, you know, your overage of your water bill than it was to pay $45 to have somebody hook onto a hydrant and fill your pool. So I'm just trying to get everything in alignment, just because the state is kind of now using this, and so it's kind of been brought more to our attention so than it has in the past, because our requests aren't always there. But B, you know, something to consider potentially as another revenue source is if, you know, bulk, you know, water haulers are trying to go from Underhill to Middlebury, and they don't want to haul from Underhill, and they can stop in Bristol and buy it, and they're just as satisfied, and then we can charge them for the water from Bristol, because we have some good water here.
Eric, are you looking for a question or a comment?
A comment. I had my pool filled here a couple of years ago. It was $300 a load delivered.
How much was
And
it?
how much? And yeah, how much is it on? How much?
4,500.
Wow, so that would be like $600 for $600 a pool or better.
That's just because the hauler's charging for
$900 to fill it there last 2 years ago.
Of course, the trucking's in there too. That's a big cost.
Trucking's in there too. That was delivered.
Yeah, Bolton was paying $400 for 4,000 gallons at a time of water. And so when Heather Collins came to Bristol and did the sanitary survey last year for the state, she saw the overflow and the amount of water coming from the spring that was bypassing the pump station because we have so much water available. And our really nice water storage tank, and the fact that we can actually withdraw water from the tank or hydrants, and said, are you guys selling water, like bulk water to haulers? Because there's a lot of systems that are running out of water. It's a potential revenue source for you guys. And I said, nope, we'll mention it to Jen and see what she thinks. And yeah, so it's kind of been it's a potential revenue source if, and understanding that the pumps are going to run more. And understanding that something has to happen for the supervision of the said connection to fill the truck. But I don't know, something for you guys to think about. And the state seems to understand that it behooves other systems to have other places to get good water, good clean water.
Well, I mean, we would just have to figure out all the cost in that fee, that whatever we're gonna, if you're gonna go that route.
Mm-hmm.
Right. If
You know,
we were to do
precise
that,
time, for whoever's time it is that has to be there to monitor it, the connection and all that, that's all got to be figured in.
Mm-hmm.
right. And to me, it feels like it would make sense to have maybe a resident fee and a commercial fee,
Right.
something along those lines.
I agree.
Yep.
Resident fee, because they paid for all the stuff in the ground, and then, yeah, if it's going out of the district.
Yeah.
it's-
I mean, if that's something that you guys would be interested in entertaining, it might be interested to see if we, if we can come, in the next few weeks upon Peaker's grinning, and I see, is he talking? Because I think he's on mute.
I'm talking to my daughter on the phone.
Oh, okay, sorry. I thought you were talking to me and I couldn't hear you. So it might be something that's worth not necessarily budgeting a revenue for, but seeing if it becomes a good revenue source, and that we can always put it under, your miscellaneous revenue and keep good track of it for the upcoming year, with the idea that maybe, as Jill said, some other systems need water or need something along those lines, and we're there to offer it. And you guys, like both Darla and Joel have said that we could offer an in-service rate and out-of-service rate, so that it's a little bit more expensive for a private water hauler to come get it. But if I want to fill my pool and I'm in the district, you're going to charge me a little bit less, so it'll be a deal.
Jen, you said you only had one request last year?
One request to fill a pool.
Right.
Obviously, the request that's going on right now is just the state needing water for the grinding. And so we're going to be billing them. And so that's what's it's kind of just slowly continued to come to the forefront. So I just thought I'd, bring it up as a topic of discussion, and not something that necessarily needs to be decided tonight, but something to consider, because, another revenue source is potentially, if successful, can also help offset a bond cost. So I'm just trying to get creative in coming up with another source of revenue. And maybe it's nothing, but
And until you explore it and see what the potential is, I think it's a solid idea. I'd be supportive of you sort of looking into that and seeing what the potential is for that.
okay.
You may want to
Sean,
reach out
question
to
for
the
Jennifer.
town of Richmond. I think that's where the water to Bolton Valley came from. So they would probably have a set fee already figured out that you probably want to be comparable to, because otherwise people would just drive to Richmond and get the water.
Right. Absolutely. Thank you, Alan, for that.
Jennifer, I thought we voted, the group, help me out here. I thought that new service connection fee side, I thought we upped that last year to $750, Joe. No?
I think we said it was, let me read this here.
Or did we go from $250 to $500?
I think we went $250 to $500, but then you have to pay for all the pieces, parts, and extras, so that if the meter was bigger than your standard 3/4, or you were buying 5 meters, or whatever the case may be.
So I remember that.
Is that
I remember
what we
that conversation.
decided on, or you decided on?
No, that's right.
Is that right, Valerie?
Yeah.
So hard because I can't see everybody.
Can folks see the screen share right here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I can anyway.
Yeah.
So, I mean, something that, you know, like I said, could be nothing, but I thought might be worth exploring, because if, you know, water haulers are driving through here and we have good water and, you know, could supply it, it could be a decent revenue source. And
Well, would the Water Commission be open to going ahead and changing that title from swimming pool filling fee to bulk water purchase, and either change the rate now or come back to it, but at least change the name?
I'd be,
I think I'm agreeable to both, to at least make it a minimum of the $75 fee.
Oh.
I mean, I don't know how the rest of you guys feel, but
Yep, I agree.
Okay.
we can always put our hats on in July when you got something, you know, and to tweak it.
yeah, I mean, I certainly can come back with some more, you know, I just thought I'd start discussion. I don't want to start something if you're not interested in
No, I think it's,
continuing to
you
pursue
know,
it. But
35 in town, in the district users, and maybe 100 on the outside. But I would see what dollars are getting, and like Eric said, but you know, at least half of that was trucking.
right.
Half.
Well, Alan gave us a good lead for Richmond, so I can either look on their website, and if there's nothing up there, I certainly could give them a call and just, you know, scope that out and talk to some other places to see what their bulk water rates are, if they distribute it to haulers and things like that, and just do some extra research, knowing that you guys are interested in that. And then, you know, we can either come back and discuss the rate, or I mean, if you want to change your minimum rate right now to 75, that's obviously fine with me. But if you want more research done, I'm happy to do that and come back another night.
yeah, I mean, I would change it now, and then we can, you know, after your research, we can always readjust it.
Okay.
And I'd like to, while you're looking with Richmond and a few others, Jen, I'd like to see what their service connection fee is.
Service connection as well. Okay.
Okay, we good to move on?
Well,
Yeah.
is there a motion to make those adjustments, or?
I make a motion, we make those adjustments as discussed. 75 for in the district and 100 outside the district, and have Jen do some more research and come back to us.
Okay.
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
All right.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carried.
Excellent.
What, and that fee, that what fee was that for? Was that the reconnect and disconnect, or no?
That's the bulk water purchase.
It's going to say, Tasha, instead of swimming pool filling, it's going to say bulk water fee, and then up to 10,000, 75, and over 10,000, I guess.
Okay, and who
75 plus.
75 plus.
Who seconded that?
Ian did.
It was $100, Tasha, for out of the district users.
Okay, we good?
Thank
Okay,
you.
Jill and Cy, thank you. Alan, are you leaving us? I see you later.
We'll get
Thank you.
mosquito bit pretty soon there, Jill and Si. You better get inside.
I know it's getting there. Just
Yeah.
it's hot in that house.
Okay, next
Thank you
order
both.
of business.
Thanks, Alan.
Thank you.
4th of July.
Governor took care of that on Friday, didn't he?
Ted's been patient for almost 2 hours now.
Oh.
There, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good
Yeah,
evening,
okay.
Ted.
I just unmuted.
Yay,
4th
I
of July,
can see everybody.
yippee.
Go ahead, Ted.
4th of July committee has a meeting tomorrow night. And the governor, of course, took care of our parade. Evidently, there is not going to be a parade. Not real sure where the fireworks stand in his mind. The fireworks are fairly expensive, really expensive, but they're a really important part of the celebration in the mind of many of us on the committee. So we're going to talk about that tomorrow night. As far as social distancing and the rest of that, we have to discuss that as well. We are going to hold the chicken barbecue, which is a fundraiser for the 4th of July committee. what we're going to do is take out at the Legion on June 27th, so that it'll work the same way that the restaurants have been working. One of the differences is that we will only be selling half chickens. We won't be selling quarter chickens. What else we got here? We are going to decorate for the 4th of July, as we always have, with the flag on the cranes, the buntings, and those flags that look like jib sails that appear on the side of the road. Let's see what else we got here. I guess
Hey,
that's...
Ted, quick question. The fireworks, do you already have them purchased for this year?
We don't buy the fireworks.
Okay.
We sub that out. Yeah. And we have an agreement with them. We just have to talk with them once we figure out if we're going to do it at all.
Okay.
It's a very friendly arrangement, as it is with a lot of the vendors. We've been inundated with people begging us to hold a celebration because everybody else has shut down.
Mhm.
And people really want to do something in the way of celebration. Any other questions?
Ted, how are you going to handle, usually you've done the fireworks at the high school and that rec field is just mobbed with people. How are you going to handle that for the social distancing?
That's something that we have to talk about tomorrow night, and that particular aspect may take care of the holding the fireworks at all.
Well, yeah, and the question is, will the school even allow you to use their grounds?
I have no idea.
Yeah. I can't really have the graduation, so.
You don't want to celebrate my birthday, Ted?
Sure. Sure, let's do that.
My birthday's on the 3rd, so it's always a firework. So.
Oh, that's my anniversary as well.
Okay. Anything else, Ted?
Not for me.
Okay, anybody have any more questions of Ted? Thank you for staying up with us, Ted.
Thank you.
Oh, it was a pleasure.
Have a good night.
You too.
Thanks, Ted.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Okay, let's see. Village paving Main Street sidewalk update. Guess that's you, Val. You're muted.
Sorry about that. Yeah, so where to start? It's kind of awkward for me since I'm not actually there to see things. But Natalie did put out an update last week, letting folks know the schedule for the conduits, one-lane traffic pattern. But Thursday is going to be the big news with the milling beginning in the downtown. And so all the parking on Main Street will be blocked off, and it's going to be messy and noisy for pretty much all day. We're working on putting together a map showing the limits of the milling for that day and alternative parking areas where people can plan to try to park. But I haven't seen that yet, and the idea was to get it out tomorrow if possible.
It should be in your email. I saw it this afternoon.
Oh.
It was a follow-up from Natalie. She had an attachment.
Huh. I'll take another look.
Okay.
Next week, after they get the downtown done, they're going to start going from the downtown toward the high school, toward Airport Road. And when they're done with that, then they're going to circle back around and go from eastward down to Lord's Prayer Rock. And the National Bank of Middlebury is having part of their sidewalk replaced in conjunction with this, but they'll be paying for it.
Okay.
Ian, did you want to add anything?
So I've been going down pretty much daily just to sort of check in. Usually when they're done, I take photos and post it on the Bristol Core Facebook page, so it keeps it updated and people can see what's happening. They seem to be moving at a pretty good pace. There's, every day is a pretty good sized set of changes. All the brick is obviously gone. They've almost got all the new lamppost base, the 6-foot columns set in different areas. And they've taken off all the areas that were concrete where the brick is, where it used to be brick and concrete. All that's gone now. And maybe a third of the curbs have been pulled up as well. That was one of the things they're working on this week. And so they've been removed. So it's coming on pretty well. I met with Chris last week, talked about the bank, and he gave numbers for that. It was 2 or 3 sections of sidewalk that were going to be either side of sidewalk that was going to be replaced anyway because they needed to put the lamppost bases in. So the bank decided to sort of have that done, and that's something Joel talked about in a previous meeting. And we also talked about a couple of things I noticed in the design plans about how the stamped concrete was going to go across one of the paved areas, the crosswalk. So that got fixed. But yeah, it's looking really good. I mean, it's a lot of destruction in town, but it's going to be worth it. And I think they seem to be moving at a good pace. The other side, outside of the construction, it's just sort of the safety aspect. We've had some residents complaining about people not wearing masks, and I've witnessed that myself too. I do tend to go down and try to get down there in the day too, so I can see people how they're working. And the most recent times I've been down, it seems like it's fairly good coverage in terms of people wearing masks. So I'm think they're being told to adhere to the state regulations as they should. And I think Chris and Natalie have been very good at sort of updating and keeping us apprised, and also answering my questions too, and Valerie's questions. So I think it's coming along really well.
Did you want to mention the outreach that you were thinking about?
Well, so one of the residents had raised a question at the public meeting in terms of not knowing about this project, and obviously there's lots of answers you can give to that. But the project's here, it's happening, and it's something where if people don't know about it, we need to let them know. So one idea was we've taken their essentially the fact sheet that's on the website about the project, detailing it, putting on Natalie's details in terms of her public outreach, putting on town website details on our side, being able to print out copies and leave that on people's, maybe do the doorknob hangers that we do for the water department. If there's something happening near your house, put that on the stretch of Main Street that's affected. One of the comments from the previous meeting was just sort of the outreach. Should it be located as in such a small area, and should it be town-wide? And so that's something that I want to discuss. It's money to do that. Can that be charged to the project? Can it be charged or tasked to Natalie to do that in terms of a town-wide mailing? Do we just pick sections of the mailing route that are most affected, but it's everyone in the town who eventually will be affected and should know about it? So I'm not sure how to handle that yet. Like, I do think we should try to get it out there to as many people as possible, but there is money involved to do that. We'd need to do that.
There's also timing, since the project is moving along at a pretty good clip.
Right.
At some point it's almost a little late to be sending out that type of information.
Right. It's something for future projects we should be aware of, and I think it should be built into the budget. It's a small line item. It's not a lot of money, but it is some money. And if you don't have it in there, it's sort of trying to figure out where to get it from. But I do think for future projects, especially to do with construction, if it affects large parts of the town, it should just be built in, or the public outreach is part of that, is part of doing an actual physical mailer, because it's going to reach the most people. Now, if you've driven through downtown, obviously you know about it. If you don't, then, and you're on either East or West Street, you may not know about it yet. And so that's where the mailing would help. So maybe just a small focus to the residents there, just counting how many houses there are and having that sent out, could be a good thing to do. It shows that we're trying to rectify the issues of people not knowing about this project or being surprised by it. And once you have it, and once people have the information where they can get updates, they're going to be hopefully less worried about the project coming through and seeing workers, things like that.
Ian, could we at least at the minimum, as you said, the grinding's going to start on Main Street on Thursday morning, have the the message boards at each end of the project, at the bottom of Stony Hill and over by Large Square Rock, at least say milling to begin the date and put that on. Have them change those instead of just say road construction ahead.
Yeah.
So please
Yeah,
address.
since it's electronic, they should be able to just do it remotely. Yeah, that's a good idea. I guess I'll talk to Natalie about that, or Valerie, if you want to. Do you know who would be the person to talk to about that?
You're muted, Val.
Muted, Valley.
Yeah. We would go to Natalie and then she would direct the question to wherever it needs to go.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a good suggestion.
Because in the morning when they head west, it says it's on the message board at the bottom of the hill headed west. It says milling to begin on Route 17.
Oh, okay.
That's for that project west of us.
Right, the different project. Okay.
Mhm.
But yeah, so that's, I mean, I think it's going well just in terms of the Main Street. Trying to keep Main Street businesses updated with what's going on. You know, some are asking me questions and I'm giving them as much detail as I can. A lot of businesses, there are a couple that have reopened at shorter hours. Some are looking to reopen within the next week. Some are waiting a little bit longer in the next 2 or 3 weeks. I guess the biggest issue that we're dealing with now is outdoor dining, since there are new rules in place to do that, and how do the restaurants in town deal with that, especially in a situation where you might not have sidewalk. I mean, you have limited sidewalk anyway, and now you have even less sidewalk. So that's going to be the biggest thing. And there, has been discussions, or can we use parking spaces to create pop-up parklets? Other towns in the state sort of, looking at ways to be able to do that in different cities and towns. But because of the construction, we can't even sort of guarantee a place that you may not be affected by large heavy machinery coming by. So it's not a great time to do that, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
Ian, man, I will tell the board that Sherry Rockwood at Snaps has talked with the bank, and the bank has agreed to close the alley.
Oh, good.
And she's going to start on Monday, June 1st, using the alley up to just shy of our drive-up exits for tables out there. We've agreed to let her use that.
I thought the construction company was using the alleyway for their trucks and that to park them there.
They won't as of Monday.
They parked some because they were unloading some of the concrete lamppost space. I saw that.
Okay.
They had backed in just to be able to place them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anything else? Are we good on that one?
So what's the deal as far as are we saving anything by allowing them to work through the day? It's made a big difference in the project. The milling was all supposed to be done at night. There wouldn't have been any parking issues if the milling was done at night. I'm just, we're bending for them, and I haven't heard anything as to what we're saving by allowing them to work through the day. I know as of June 1st, they're supposed to go back to just nights on Main Street.
That's the current plan. When we first explored this, they came back with a savings of $1,260, basically fuel that they wouldn't be using at night for the night work.
But yet they're leaving the lights on all night. They have somebody coming in, turn the lights on. They run all night anyway.
I did put the question out about the difference in labor rates for savings, but I hadn't gotten an answer back, but I'll follow up.
I know, anytime I have people work nights, it costs me more because it changes their whole schedule.
Absolutely.
And I can't believe that it's no different for a big company like that.
Right. I'll push again.
Yeah, we've had a lot of questions.
Go ahead, Ian.
We've had a lot of questions about the lights. Why the lights are? I mean, they were being turned on when they left at 3 or 3:30 or 4. That's been changed, so someone comes back now and turns them on, and they turn them off in the morning. But then people are just questioning, if there's no workers there, why are the lights on? And sort of I've explained, many occasions that, there used to be 14 lights that were there permanently that were on, in the evening. People seem to forget that there actually was lighting, and that if you take all that away, it gets incredibly dark on Main Street. So I just explained that it's, for pedestrian and driver safety to have those on, and, they've been adjusted to sort of half power since that first night was pretty bright, I guess. So yeah, and, most of the businesses, I said, they've been pretty responsive and good. I think, we're going to get the other side when it switches to night, and you're going to have people who live on Main Street are going to bear the brunt of what's happening, next. But it's just, I don't know. There isn't an easy answer to give, unfortunately, to residents on Main Street. It's just one of those things that this project, we've done as much day work as we can to not affect businesses. Someone will be affected by it at some point. It's inevitable, just because with a project of this scale. But hopefully it goes by smoothly, and then, for the next 20 or 30 years, we'll never have to worry about this again.
Okay. Next order of business, request from a resident at 9 Elm Street for street light removal.
Well, actually, we're going to briefly hit on COVID-19.
Oh, sorry. You're right. I skipped right over that. Because I felt like we were kind of doing that. Okay.
That's every day.
I really don't have much to report other than the office is still closed, and we're still being attentive to the safety protocols, trying to keep up with the changing information. I'm going into the office Wednesdays and Fridays, not just Fridays, in the afternoons.
Well, and I know that Sharon is doing by appointment only too.
Correct.
So, if somebody needs to come in, they can call and make an appointment.
Correct. Yep.
Taylor, do you want to give an update from our call today?
So Addison County Mutual Aid has been continuing to go. We've received a few requests for Bristol in the past couple of weeks, and I've been able to attend to them. And we received some postcards from Addison County Mutual Aid. That we are going to work on distributing. They're really simple, and we worked on distributing through handouts and flyers to community members, but we're going to distribute these through a couple of different venues that we're still figuring out, probably having an envelope in a couple of key places around town that people can just pick up and take, so it's information. And I mean, really, we're just continuing to provide service, and in general, mutual aid is working together for the whole county to create the infrastructure so that if something like this happens again, it's kind of like a click on sort of thing. They can just turn on really easily. Yeah.
Good job.
But we're looking at, can we get testing set up in Bristol, trying to see if that can happen. At the moment, there are, on the state website, there are areas that you can sign up for, Middlebury being the closest to us. And there are spots open for, I think it's the 29th.
Friday.
Yeah.
Back in Middlebury?
Yeah, and it's free. I was
Yeah.
tested on Wednesday just because I figured a data point. I didn't have any symptoms or was worried, but just adding more data. And so it's at least the one they ran in Middlebury was in front of the VA.
No, the Legion. It was at the Legion.
Okay, yeah. And yeah, you get out of your car, they tell you where to go. They put a cotton swab in your nose for 3 seconds, and then you leave. And
they tell you don't back up.
Yeah. And pretty much, since I wasn't positive, I didn't get the call right away, which I think probably comes within 24 to 48 hours.
That's what they said, yeah.
Yeah, and then you receive a letter. I've received mine today that said I wasn't positive, so.
I got mine today too, Taylor.
It's great. It's good. It's great. And we are told from Diane that you can get antibody testing done at urgent, or sorry, not urgent. It's urgent care, but it's Clear Choice.
Down in Rutland or in Burlington?
I imagine both, but she identified the one in Burlington, and you just have to make an appointment. But yeah, so we're exploring the options of trying to get one in Bristol specifically, just to, you know, I mean, not that we're worried a lot of people have it in Bristol necessarily, but it kind of, I know the governor's used the language a couple of times around like boxing the virus in. If we can get everyone to get tested, or 99% of the people get tested, and we know, you know, on this date you were negative, but then you got the symptoms in this date, and these are the people you interacted with, like that's one of the people, or, you know, if we can get all the data we possibly can, it can only help us, really.
Taylor, is the antibody testing at Clear Choice, is that free or is that?
Diane did not identify that. I bet that's not expensive.
Yeah, no, I was just curious as if it was all kind of like the testing, was it all free? I mean, it's too bad we can't do that closer to here.
Yeah, let's see. If only, yeah, I'm looking on their website right now to see if they are free.
And do you need a doctor's order to have it done?
No, you do not need a referral.
You could just call and make an appointment.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's $139.
Okay.
To get the antibody testing. I suppose if you health insurance might cover it.
They're supposed to cover COVID-19 stuff. I don't know if they consider that COVID-19 stuff, but
yeah. They recommend they say for patients to reach out to insurance, but if you have to pay, it costs $139.
Okay.
But yeah, so that's really what we've been doing. And if anyone registers for the testing, if you're on a wait list or put in a request or anything, if you identify that you're from Bristol, what I've been told is the more people that put on, like, I'm from Bristol and I would like to get tested, the more they're able to take that data and determine that Bristol is an area where there should be testing and things like that.
Okay, good. Anything else?
No.
Thank you, Taylor.
Eric, any updates from you?
No, not really. I mean, we're just doing what we're supposed to be doing. So nothing as far as that. Just the hours got changed this week. We started our lovely 8-hour day again.
Are you whining, Eric?
I just think I'll use the word, it's stupid.
Well, tell us why, and tell us what you accomplish in 4 days versus 5 days, whether you're summer hours or winter hours.
The Fridays is normally the days that we do the small jobs. We do the pressure washing, getting the equipment cleaned up. We go out, we change signs that need to be changed. We do all the little odds and ends stuff that we save up during the week so we don't take away from doing road work. We save them up and we do them on Fridays. Because it's a short hour day and there's no sense of going out on the road. We can get these smaller stuff done and caught up with. But being now that you're doing a 5-8 hour day, you're still going to ruin a day on the road by doing these small odds and end jobs that still need to be done. So just in my opinion, I really don't think it's going to accomplish what you guys think it's going to.
So you're saying you get more accomplished Monday through Thursday working, what, 10-hour day?
No, I don't say we get more done. I say we would get the same amount done versus going back to the 5-8 hour days. You're still going to have to do your ditching, your grading, your chloriding. Then you're also going to have to do your coal patching, your potholes, your maintaining of signs, your cleaning the equipment up on for from the winter, oiling them, putting them away, all that stuff is still going to have to be done. So regardless of if you do 4 9-hour days and stay out on the roads and use just the Fridays to do the small stuff, or you still do 4 8-hour days on the road, and you're still going to take a half a day or 3/4 of a day, or maybe even a whole day on a Friday to get the small stuff done. The stuff that still has to be done, regardless if you do it on a 4-hour day or an 8-hour day, is still taken away from the roads. That's all I'm saying.
And also,
You should be able to get 2 weeks worth of 4-hour work done in 1 week and then spend 5 days on the road next week.
Okay, wait a minute. Say that again, Peeker.
Yeah, run that by me again.
I said he should be able to get 2 half days work done on a Friday, and then the next week spend all 5 days on the road.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Well, yeah, theoretically, if the stuff comes up enough to do a full 8-hour day, you know what I mean? Like, let's just say, for example, this week we save up. You know, we don't do the small stuff until Friday, and then we go out Friday and do it, and it's done. And then the next week you got more stuff, or you could save up your stuff, I guess, for 2 weeks and do a full Friday. I suppose you could do that, but you're still, the point I'm making is you're still taking away from the roads. It doesn't matter how you slice it. I don't know. And you're only doing it for 3 weeks.
Are you full staff now?
No. It'll be even less now. So Kale will be back full-time June 10th is when he's back full-time. And Jared right now is out on maternity leave. Danielle, she had her baby Saturday morning, I believe. So he's out this week and possibly next week, depending on how everything goes at home.
and Eric, is it safe to say that there's also a kind of a morale issue or factor with the summer hours after?
Yeah, after a long winter, everybody looks forward to the summer hours where you can get done a half a day on Friday and go home and do your stuff at home. It gives the guys incentives that, I mean, they're still working their 40 hours, but they just look forward to the summer hours after the winters. And right now, I mean, I know what it is what it is, and nothing you can do about it, but the guys aren't happy about it. Well, most of the guys aren't happy about it. I'll just say that.
Well, one, because he only works 3 days a week right now, and the Friday is the day he works. That was part of the reason for changing it. I'll be perfectly honest. I mean, it's not fair to the rest of the workforce. If he's only working 3 days a week and you guys go home at 11 o'clock, he's not going to stay there and work.
No. But
you know,
you're only gaining 2 hours. If you go 8-hour days, 3 days a week, that's 24 hours. 2 9s and a 4 is 22 hours. You're only gaining 2 hours worth of his time for them 3 days. And then if you only do it for 3 weeks, because you said we'd go back to 15th when the order got lifted, hopefully. So you're talking for 3 weeks, you're talking gaining 6 hours for 3 weeks.
No, he's gaining 6 hours. We're losing 6 hours.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah. He's gaining 6 hours. Yeah. But you're only talking 2 hours worth of time difference each week. And to me, 2 hours is, I don't know. I don't know.
I still, you know, the other side of this, Eric, is they've had 8 weeks that you haven't been working full time. I know you guys have been there and you've done a lot, but there's only been 3 of you there for 8 weeks. And
not
I
all
just,
three, not,
you know,
not all 8 weeks though. There's
It's
quite a
on.
few weeks when everybody was gone except for me.
Right.
I'll bet you there was probably at least half of the time it was just me there.
so is the morale problem you? Because everybody else has had their summer hours for 8 weeks is what I'm trying to say here. I mean, this is not, it's,
The morale
it's not
problem's not me.
penalizing the guys. I
look forward to the summer hours. So there's only one person out of the 5 of us that really doesn't want to do the 9 hours. And I will leave it at that, and you can take your guess on who that one person is.
Yeah, I already know that. The other side of that is you've got a ton of vacation time. You could take the Fridays off now until the 1st of July if your demand to back you up is there to take your place.
Right. I could take off. I could take off starting tomorrow, and not come back until July 1st.
It still has some time coming to you, probably.
And still carry over 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So.
Well, some of that shame on you for not using any of that time before this all took place, you know.
Yeah, I know. I should have looked at my crystal ball better and got a better prediction.
Oh, come on, Eric, we did have 9-10 months before this kicked in.
Well, I did take some time off last fall.
Well, obviously not enough.
But Eric,
and then I usually take time off in June. But
here,
no, I talked to Kale about this already, about me taking off, and he's willing to come in Monday and Tuesday to get the guys going, to get the orders up and get them out the door. And then he would go home and do his schooling with his kids. And then he'd be back Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So I talked to him about that today.
Well, school's done as of June 10th.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. He'll be back full time June 10th.
Actually, they're supposed to be giving them any more work from
that'd be nice.
The end of this week or June, beginning of next week, something or other. They're just supposed to be finishing up what they've got done.
Oh, all right.
Eric, could you take off and use up your next 5 weeks here left without your assistant being there and just give them a list that he's not there 2 days a week? I mean, the board asked for a list a couple weeks ago, I think, or a week ago. We asked for a list. That's why we put the 5 days until we get a list, and then we reevaluate that. And I mean, those guys have been here a long time. They don't need somebody. No offense. They don't need an assistant every morning. If he's there every other morning to say, here's the list. We got to have it done, guys, and let's go. Is that not happening? Could that happen? I mean,
well, it would depend. You'd have one person that would try to take over. And and you know as well as I do, if that person does, there's going to be backlash.
give him 5 weeks of work in the shop.
Can I give him 5 weeks? Well, he's got to take time off too.
Yep.
So he's got about, I think he's got like 2.5 weeks or 3 weeks that he needs to take off.
You guys are killing me.
You know? So.
Anything else on COVID-19? Do you guys have any more questions of Eric?
Are there any loops that we want to close on that subject?
Eric, what happened, or maybe you didn't get told, I suggested maybe the one that can only come in 2.5 days or 3 days, if we go to 8-hour days, maybe two of those the other two to make 5. Could he work 2 to 8? Could he do some stuff in the shop? Could he do other stuff? Come in at 2 after the school is closed. He's done his homework with his kids, and I really support that. As a father, he's doing the right thing. But could he come in and work from 2 to 8? It didn't get dark here tonight until 5 minutes to 9. I mean, I realize other stuff you could do.
I can talk to him about that tomorrow and see if he could come in, because he usually gets done schooling around, I think he says around noon, 1 o'clock, something like that.
Yeah. You know, if he works,
he's usually done schooling with the boys. So
if he worked from 1 to 7,
I could ask him and see if he would be willing to do it.
When you and I talked about it at one point, you mentioned that some of the items on the list require more than one person. That
some do.
2 people.
Well, you don't do those then on the 1 to 8 o'clock. Then you do them the 3 days you're there with other people. There's got to be stuff on the list that one person could do.
Yeah, the washing of the equipment, the oiling and all of that for the winter equipment coming back in. That's not something that you necessarily need 2 people to do.
No.
You only have one pressure washer.
Right. No, you can get away with one person. I did my plow and my wing today by myself. I got my truck left to do, but in the plow front, but I did the plow and the wing today. So, yeah, it can be done with one person. So I can talk to him tomorrow, more about it tomorrow. He comes in tomorrow, so I can talk to him more about it tomorrow.
Anything else for Eric, or are we good?
Did we last week we talked, and we wanted to see a list of projects for the summer, Eric, kind of like the bus ride, the tour we have, but we didn't have. We'd like to see now a list of stuff that you want to get done by the first flake hits the ground or after Halloween. And I don't know if that got relayed to you.
Yeah, no, Valerie mentioned that to me. Yep.
Okay.
And the reason was, you said that was difficult to prepare.
Well, I think the reason was, Valerie, to be perfectly honest with you, right up straight, is, okay, if 2/3 of it doesn't, or half of it doesn't get done, we can say, what happened? And we going back, well, we just ran out of time or whatever. But I'd like to see a list, kind of like the bus trip around without the bus trip around. Is what do we plan on getting done this year?
The list is no problem. I can get a list together. Kayla and I can sit down and we can write up a list and get that done. The other part that Valerie mentioned to me was you guys wanted a schedule on when it was going to be done and who was going to do it and all that. That can't be done. Too many factors involved that change day to day that you can't do that.
I get that 100%, Eric. It's like last week, and you and I talked, and I asked about 2 years ago, I think it was 2 years ago, you showed us the lower Harts gravel. And I asked you about when you surprised us with the 3 paving jobs here in the village, and then we moved them over. Now you're going to do Lover's Lane and the lower Notch Road down to the 116, which I think is great. And you said, well, I needed more money for that lower Harts gravel road. Those are the type of things I want to see on the list. So when they don't get done, I can ask. And you told me that over on lower Harts gravel. Well, you said that's a budget issue. There's not enough money to redig up those hog troughs on the tractors. And that road's going to need some rebuilding. That for me tells me at budget time, okay, let's bring that up. But if I don't know about it, I can't really bring it up. So I want to support you on those things, but I want to make sure you're on the list to say, Eric, what happened to it? Did it go off the back of the stove and fall off? You know, it was on the back burner and didn't get done.
Yeah, no, the list is, I can come up with a list. That's no problem.
And I think your assistant could really help you with that. Say,
yeah, that's what I said. Me and him would sit down and talk about it.
Right, and he could take that from you. Say, you need to do this at home. You want to get some hours in do it at home.
Well, Valerie gave me a
The capital plan.
their capital plan, and I gave that to him Friday, and he's supposed to come up with a priority list on the capital plan of which ones that need to be done. So that's what he's supposed to be doing while he was home today, after he got done his schooling, but he's supposed to have that done, working on that, so we have a priority list of which one to do.
Right.
So I did give him some stuff to do at home already.
Okay.
Anything else?
So,
Hey,
whoops, sorry. So were you talking about anything else about the road?
for Eric and COVID-19. Otherwise, we're going to move on.
Well, Meredith has some info.
Yeah, I just wanted to update you all that we are we've moved towards working out of the offices or out of the hub. Planning on our camps. We'll be presenting to you guys in the future of how we're going to process the camps and how we're following the guidelines that have been requested by the state. But we are in the office. I'm in the office Monday through Friday, 8 to 12, sometimes a little later, sometimes a little less. And then Alex is at the hub or at the parks or in the office. We stagger our time, and Taylor is also in the hub and at her working from remote. So we're there. We're at the Holly Hall. Doors are locked, but just like the downstairs, we do appointments as well.
Oh, go ahead, Darla.
So I just wanted to bring up, there was an email that came through. Ian was on it. I think Valerie, you were on it too, and possibly a couple others. A question about there have been other, Burlington being one, Bennington being one municipality that has mandated the wearing of masks within town. And so there was a question brought up, is that something we want to consider as a town? Would that be an advantage to our business owners? Do we mandate it for if they go into a business? I mean, I just like to have that discussion and see how people feel. And number one, I'd like to know if we've heard from any businesses that would be something that they would want. I don't want to add to their misery or their responsibility, but if it's going to be something that's going to make them feel more comfortable, I think that's something that we need to consider.
Well, I mean, at Martin's, they've got to sign up, mask or you don't come in. So I think each business can handle that. You know, I don't think it takes us to actually say, you need to do that.
I agree. I agree that they could each. I'm just saying that there are municipalities that have made that choice.
I reached out to a couple businesses just to sort of get their opinions. One thought it would be helpful because it takes the pressure off of them and confrontation, perhaps, if it is a mandated thing by the town. There's a little bit more weight behind that. And on the other side of that, one other felt that it wasn't necessary given the low numbers that we have in Vermont at this time. They didn't support that because it made their choices of their customers a little bit harder coming in. So we do see both sides. But I think, Michelle, I think you're right. I think it's most businesses that I've talked to in terms of businesses that are about to open up, all are asking people to wear masks. And, you know, I know Carol Wells with Vermont Marketplace, she has a sign on the door in terms of occupancy and wearing masks, and every other business I've talked to is requiring that. So I think they seem to be, you know, enforcement is another thing, but I think people hopefully will be respectful of businesses and the signs on their doors. And I think that's happening in Martin. So I was heard from someone today that they could see people in Martin's not wearing masks, but I don't know if they were putting on masks as they were going in, or just, you know, it's getting busy. People are wanting to do things. And so it is getting busy out there.
Now, I was in Shaw's on Sunday and there were Monday, and there were plenty of people without masks. So
yeah.
But okay.
Just you know, what if we mandate wearing masks, and you're saying that Joel was saying that they've allowed snaps to use the space in between to do outdoor dining. How do you deal with that? I mean, you're telling me that I can sit out there and eat, but yet if I'm walking by, I got to be wearing a mask. I have a hard time with that
Yeah.
one.
Like, it's difficult. I mean, yeah, eating is a very complex thing, and even the regulations of being tables being 10 feet apart, and the number of people being restricted, and the number of households being restricted, like all of that is like a very hard thing to actually, ask about. So yeah, I don't know.
I totally support the no mask, no service on a business door.
Exactly.
If I want to shop there and I want something that's in there, I'm going to put a mask on to go in.
Good.
I think it's that simple.
Yeah.
I agree.
Well, I agree. The no shirt, no shoes, no mask, no service. I'm fine with it. It was an email that came in, and I wanted to make sure we talked about it tonight.
Yeah. Okay. Next, let's see if I get this one right. Request from resident at 9 Elm Street for street light removal.
Hopefully folks had a chance to read the letter from the resident there.
Is this Mr. Seversick's old place?
I don't know.
I think it is. I think it is. I think it's right next to Chris and Jen's.
Jen's nodding.
Okay. Got it.
They've had Green Mountain Power come out twice to try to lower the intensity, angle it differently, and nothing has worked. And Green Mountain Power said that the only option is to remove it. I don't know why it's there or what how necessary it is in terms of nighttime visibility and public safety. I just don't know.
Valor, that's the only one in the middle of that street. There's one on the corner of Elm and North by the Masonic Hall, and there's one down by the hydrant and the corner of Taylor and Elm. That's the only one in the middle of the street. It's that street's not long, but you need one there in the middle of that street. That street would be dark.
Can I just say, why can't they get room darkening blinds?
Oh, it's for the plants outside. I believe it's for the plants that he said in his email, or outside.
Partly.
That was partly, yeah.
What do you mean it's for his plants?
Some of the species
Just
require darkness.
They have a garden.
Well, then you shouldn't have you shouldn't have bought a house in the village. I mean, I'm sorry. We have lights all around the village.
I think it's a safety issue. We can't take that.
Yeah, I agree.
Can it be moved instead of removed?
When we
probably buy a
installed-
$79.
Wait a minute. We got too many people. Okay, Beaker, go ahead.
When we installed the lights, we were given a choice of how intense they were, and I'm just curious as to whether we could put a light there that wasn't as intense. I understand that they've tried to angle it, according to the emails, they've tried to angle that light so that it doesn't shine on their property. I know that when we originally put them up, they put up 3 or 4 different lights, and we drove around and looked at which ones were bright, and we put the brighter ones in intersections and we put the dimmer ones on side streets. And I just wonder if maybe we got a more intense light there than what we possibly need. I would be okay with putting one that wasn't quite as bright there if it's available, but I'm not okay with taking it out completely.
Carla, you had something.
I just asked is it possible to have it moved and not removed?
Joel?
I didn't look at that. I just drove by tonight, and he's got a vegetable garden out in front, and there's plenty of room out back to put a vegetable garden also, but there's a lot of shade out back. So I'm not sure the light gives off some light at night, but it doesn't give off any in the daytime. But boy, it got plenty of sun today, so I'm not sure why it affects the plants. But moving that light is going down a slippery slope that I don't think this board wants to go down. We have strategically placed street lights in town for safety, and I think it should stay.
Go ahead, Ian.
Yeah, I drove there a couple days
The
ago.
road is on, so maybe she can weigh in on that too.
But there isn't really. There's one at the end. Actually, there isn't one at the end. It's out on North Street, and then there's this light, and then there's the second to next pole has a light. So even if you moved it 2 in front of the lodge, you'd still have to then offset the other one because you'd have this big gap in light along that road. So it's just, yeah, it's one of those things. I mean, and I mean, I know that they have the garden in the front. They chose to put that there for a reason, but also too, you know, there are lights there that are affecting every house that has the light near it. There's a light by my garage back here. It's just one of those things. I do think what Pika's suggestion is a good one. Perhaps it is an LED light. It did get switched out however many years ago when that project happened. And so maybe there's a way, and I can see that they've angled it and trying to turn it. Maybe it's just one of those ones that's more intense, and they can look at that and be able to switch it out with one that perhaps isn't. Because the one on Mountain Terrace here, I don't feel is particularly bright. It's not like it's daylight out there. So maybe it is one that happens to be a higher intensity than other lights in the village.
Okay. Any other conversation, discussion?
I'm hearing consensus of the board to not remove the light, but to explore having one of less intensity installed.
If it wasn't so late, I'd call Teresa at Green Mountain Power right now and ask if that's the lowest wattage you can get. But I can't. I don't call it.
And I certainly don't want it. I certainly don't want it to cost the town a bunch of money either.
I guess the recommendation, at least Peaker's, was if there is another option, if there's a model that is already out there in our village that happens to be a lower wattage than the one that sits in front of their house, to maybe see if they can do a switch. Is that right, Peaker?
That would work.
Okay. If there is such a thing, it's possible that they have the lowest wattage light right outside on that pole, and then in the case that wouldn't work. But yeah, if Green Mountain Power are able to look at that and just see if it perhaps is a higher wattage one that they could switch with another one, I think that seems like, if it didn't cost anything, to be able to do that or look at that.
What's that, Val?
I wonder too if there's a way to install a film, film that would cut some of the light level.
Idea.
I'm happy to take a look at night sometime and creep around the area and see how bright it is and report back.
I wonder, it looks like, Sue, do you live on that street? Do you want to have anything to say?
Yeah, hi. I was surprised to see this on your agenda. And so I did look out. I mean, it's on our side of the street. It's on the north side of the street, right by where Cindy Irwin lives. I don't think it's very bright. And it's there's 2 lights on the street. The other one's way down on the other end, closer to Taylor. Personally, myself, I walk my dog at night, and I like the street lights. And I really like my neighbors across the street too. So I'm not, but I hate to have it happen like in Shelburne, who's removed all of their street lights on these back developments and stuff, because I feel safer when I'm out walking at night when it gets darker earlier. So, you know, maybe it can be a lower watt bulb or whatever, but I'm surprised for the reason, I guess. They haven't mentioned anything to me. But I know that their living spaces, or the bedrooms, are towards the back of the house, so I couldn't understand what was bothering them. And now I guess I sort of found out part of what it was. But anyhow, that's my 2 cents.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
I obviously missed the piece about his garden because I don't remember reading that. That's like...
Yeah, it's in the letter.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, so I think you got a consensus. You good, Val?
I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. So next order of business is George Vincent S. It's a request from George Vincent to pay half the repair costs for boundary fence. So somebody give me some background. I mean, he put the fence up. It's on his property. It's been there for how long? Our roof line has never changed. So why is he asking us to?
Yeah, it has. Michelle, the roof line has changed.
That's what I wondered.
The roof line used to drop it down where by the back door, and then when we had the renovations done in 2008, I don't know exactly when, they put that walkway and that deflects it off towards the fence.
Okay.
And you said the snow coming off the roof contributed
Yeah,
significantly.
the snow falls off the upper level and hits that and then flings right off.
Flings off. Okay. That's what I needed, the background.
Right. He got one quote for about $500, and so he's asking that the town split the cost.
So our portion would be 250?
Correct.
Or is our portion 500?
250 is how I understood it.
I make a motion that the town pay up to $250 for the repair of that fence.
Somebody want a second?
You know,
Go ahead, Peeker.
I gotta wait for discussion. I'm sorry.
Okay. Somebody second.
I'll second it so we can have discussion.
Okay. Discussion, Peeker.
So it's his fence. I know when I cleared the back line for Terry Thomas, a section of his fence had fell over on Terry's and ended up getting pulled out with the junk. And I was told that I was going to have to replace that fence. And I think Terry took care of it and said, you know, the fence was on my property. It was down for so long. It's your fence. You should have taken care of it. And that was the end of that. You know, we don't need the fence there. I guess that's my take on it. The fence is there because he wants it there.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure, Jen, go ahead.
I don't know how to raise my hand or else I would have, but.
Just like that.
I know. Raise my hand. So the thing is that, so Joel brings up the point that the roof line did change, but now it's changed and it's not going to change again. So how many times are we going to continue to pay? Like, the snow is going to keep falling off the roof, I guess is the point I want to make. And I don't want to I want to be a bad neighbor by any means, but it's also like when people call and ask us, you know, can I put up a fence? Do I need a permit? Like, the suggestion that I was always told to give them was put up a fence, but make sure that when you maintain it, you're still on your own property. So it's on your own property that you can get to the other side to paint it or repair it or whatnot, has always been kind of the saying that we give to people. So I guess my thing is that if we split this cost with them, that's great, but what happens next winter when the snow comes in and the fence falls over again and it's another $250 or more money at that point in time to continue to repair this fence?
Yeah, he's already gave some indication about his stockade fence, so I see in the future something coming about that, which I don't know where that is. What's that, Ian?
I think Eric had a comment.
Go ahead, Eric.
Oh, I was just going to say the same thing that Jen did. She stole my win. She stole my win. She did.
Well, okay. So what's the potential, given that our roof line is damaging his fence because it was changed? Can we prevent the snow coming off our roof and prevent the fence being damaged entirely?
Probably not.
Can we just put snow guards up there in some fashion that they're
Well,
on certain sections of the roof?
Well, the snow guards are really just to break up the ice and redirect it. I mean, it's not. I don't know how close we are to our boundary, but obviously the snow is going beyond our boundary.
Close. There's not a lot of room back there.
Yeah, I know.
Go
ahead, Peeker.
How many years has the roof line been changed, Joel? When did you say it was changed?
About 2008.
So it's been 10 years and the fence just fell over? Could it be old age?
No, George said that he's made changes to it, but this is I think he said the second time he's asked us to contribute or something like that. I think that's what I read.
Did we contribute the first time he asked then?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. Darla, go ahead.
I'm just wondering if this ended up going to insurance, are we liable because it's the snow coming off our roof? And I'm thinking we probably are. Is it better to be a good neighbor and pay $250 now? I mean, he's a lawyer.
I mean,
How
insurance.
far is it gonna go?
I mean, it probably won't go that far, but insurance would probably say it's an act of God, and
Right.
they
I
may
don't know.
not cover
We
it.
changed the roof line though, so
That doesn't matter. I mean, snow comes off the roof, whether it doesn't matter what the roof line is, but
I don't
that's
know.
just my guess.
I'm hankering back to when I was an insurance agent and I saw things covered I never thought I'd see covered, but so.
I mean, to me, Michelle, to me, it's really not the money, the 250, good fences make good neighbors, the old saying, but I wouldn't mind giving it, but only one time. This is it, George. We're not going to continue down this road another 10 years or no.
Or we're not dealing with your stockade fence.
We're not going to deal with your stockade fence. But I mean, what's the problem if I've got a fence out by the road and the boys go by here and it shakes it a little bit and I can say, hey, the snow off your plow, push my fence over. I want you to help pay for it. It's a slippery slope. It's a slippery slope.
Yeah. Yeah, what are the options in terms of just a one time? I mean, is obviously you're probably not going to like that.
Yeah, you're going to set a precedent.
I was just going to say that.
Like Darla said, he's a lawyer. You're going to set a precedent. You fix that fence, you're going to fix the other one.
Yeah.
Do you want to table it and bring it up at the next meeting and have him participate?
Oh, we have a motion on the floor, so we either have to vote it down or
withdraw.
Or withdraw. I mean, I don't know having George here would make a difference. Go ahead, Jolie.
I guess we voted, if we want to vote it, we vote it down. If it votes down and he wants to come on the board, we can't stop that. Let him come.
If he wants to do what?
If he wants to come back to the board.
Back to the board, complete his case, so be it.
Okay. Well, let's vote on the motion. Any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion, say aye. All those opposed, say aye.
Hey.
Nay.
Okay, so I'm sorry, say nay.
Sorry,
So Peter,
yeah,
you're a
it's
nay. Jolie,
Nay.
were you a nay?
Yes.
Ian, were you a nay?
Yeah, even though I made the motion, I can still be a nay, right?
Oh, right.
After,
Absolutely.
after discussion. Okay,
Can't
good.
take a negative motion. That's fine.
Absolutely.
So that was 5 nays.
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. Well, we're going to have fun with the next one.
Yeah. Addison County Regional Planning Commission contract amendment proposal for continued work on the Unified Development Ordinance.
So folks had a chance to see the communications with Adam Luigi from the Regional Planning Commission. Last year, we contracted with him for $5,000 to work on the subdivision regulations. Folks at that time expected that it would actually cost a bit more, but that was to get things started. And I think the thinking then was that the costs could be spread over different budget seasons. Since January or December, he's incurred almost $6,000 in additional expenses. And so he's requesting a contract amendment of up to $8,000 to cover those current expenses that have not yet been invoiced, and additional time to assist the Planning Commission with bringing the proposed ordinance changes through the public hearing process into the Select Board.
Go ahead, Joel.
Did
Wait a minute, Peeker. Go ahead, Joel.
So the 5,000 we've already paid, he wants another 8, or that's 3,000 more to add to the 5?
Oh, so it would be a total of 13 up to.
Speaker?
So I have a hard time wondering if we had a contract with him to spend $5,000, how come we didn't get a contract adjustment before he went over that $5,000?
I do not have an
I
answer.
mean, I guess I'm taking Jolie's spot tonight and being the dick. So I'm sorry, but
I'll let you have that tonight, Peter.
Did you get that, Christopher?
If you were working,
That's going to be printed in black and white, Beaker.
Headline.
Tasha, did you get that in a minute?
So if you,
I'll leave that part out. Okay.
If you had a contract with me and you went over and didn't come to me beforehand, you wouldn't get your money.
Or the same
I mean,
thing.
he worked.
You're a business person. If you were going to go over budget, wouldn't you come talk to the person before you were over budget?
Right.
I mean,
I'm not. The hard part is we really need the service, but that doesn't give you a license to steal.
Well, looking at the TA report, it's the budget's over by $886. Is that correct?
Just that line item. The overall budget is going to be well under. So there's room in the overall budget.
Okay. So
That's not the point.
No, but I agree with Peter. If you know that you're going to go over in your hours and you should be able to estimate that. It's not over by a tremendous amount. It doesn't seem like it was a $5,000 contract and now I'm up to $10,000. It's a $5,000 contract and so far it's amassed $5,886. So there's not a great deal, but I do agree that if you're going to go over, we should know about it because then we can figure out the budget accordingly.
Is it? No, wait a minute. No, Val, you said it was going to be 13,000 though.
Well,
Another 8.
Another 8.
That was my understanding, my interpretation from his communication that since January, he incurred an additional $5,600 in addition to the $5,000 already spent through last year to get it to this point.
Oh, that's very different than what that's not clear in your report, Val, but maybe it is in the letters that were sent.
So is he at 10.6 or is he at?
Right, that's
Is
what
he
I'm
at?
wondering.
Or did he spend the 5 and we owe him 56?
He spent the 5 and he billed for the 5. So he's paid up through the 5. So this is an additional 56 for 10.6. And then he estimates a couple thousand, possibly more, to get through the next, the kind of wrapping it up toward adoption.
Go ahead, Joel.
Total overrun of $8,000.
Correct. Up to.
His initial proposal was for $5,000, right? To bring
Correct.
a document.
With a caveat that additional funds were likely to be necessary.
Okay.
Was in the contract.
What does Chris say, our zoning administrator?
He supports it, that it's necessary, well, because of the overall budget.
Gotcha, Jen. So Jen would like to know what happens if we don't agree to pay him. And that was what Peter said. We need the service.
He's the only game in town, correct? We can't put this out to somebody else to do.
At this point, no.
He's got us over a barrel.
It doesn't mean that we can't really express our disfavor to this situation.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And can we amend the contract with him to say any overages need to be approved by the board before going forward?
Or any expected overages need to be pre-approved.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct.
Right.
I would like to see that say, instead of that, Darrell, I'd like it to say, any overages will be eaten by Addison County Regional Planning Commission. And not,
Well, yeah, I mean, you could say this is our limit. You're not getting any more.
Right.
Well, I guess it depends on what they are. I mean, if it's,
What's the current contract say, Val, about overages, underages? You know, if he doesn't, if
It's
he hits
silent.
that limit, then what?
It doesn't say, it just says additional, that it's expected that additional funds will be necessary to complete the project.
is this just for his time?
Wouldn't you like to know what those funds are before you expend them?
Yeah.
for the additional $8,000, I'd like to have him tell us, what are we going to see for a document? Spell it out.
What is that $8,000 going to get us?
Well, he did, let's see if I can find this here.
It'll cost you $850 if you want that in writing.
Yeah.
So let me see. Oh, heck. Let me see if I can screen share here.
I'm sorry. This is just poor planning on his part. Very.
Can you see that?
Yep, I can. Can everybody else?
So the 5,600 was spent on items 1, 2, and 3 in this list. And the next coming up would be basically to support the Planning Commission and in its communications with the Zoning Board of Adjustment regarding the proposed regulations. And basically it's subdivision regulations that are blended into the zoning regulations.
Zoning regs.
Right, and the
Public process.
Proposes that the Zoning Board of Adjustment becomes a development review board. And so there is going to be some education to work to bring people through about that transition and the change in responsibilities of the different boards.
Michelle, I have a question.
Go ahead.
So there's 5 items here. 3 of them are done.
Right.
Correct.
It's going to cost us $3,000 more than it looks like. I support the PC to ZBA proposed changes. It's going to cost us $8,000 for those last 2.
No, just up to a couple hundred or a couple thousand. He's proposing the request was for up to 8,000. He's already spent 56.
Right. So 1, 2, and 3
1, 2,
took
3.
the 5,600.
Right. And
So the remaining.
Plus the other 5, right, Val?
Say that again?
Plus the other 5.
Well, 2, 4, and 5.
No, I'm saying he's already spent this 1, 2, and 3 was 5,600 plus the 5,000 we already spent
last year.
So it's really 10, 6 if our understanding is correct.
Currently, yes.
So 4 and 5 will be $3,000. Give or take.
Up to.
Yeah.
Where are we coming up with the 8 then?
That's
5,
5,600
3 is
plus the couple thousand for 4 and 5.
So he spent 10,600, but only billed us for 56.
No, he
billed us for 5.
He spent 10,600. He's billed us for 5. He's now billing us for another 56. And he's got more work to do, which is going to be another approximately 3,000.
I like his last comment. I'd like to see those expenditures from January.
So I guess my question is, how would we have ever known this if he didn't bring this to our attention? Because they're so far behind in their billing that we would have never known this unless he had reached out to Valerie, because you all look at the expense report, as do I, and you would have said, okay, we just went a little bit over, and would have assumed that that was the contract. And now all of a sudden he's just extended, an email exchange or a phone call with Valerie to say, oh, by the way, you still owe us another, X amount of dollars. And we don't have a bill for January, February, March, or April. And now I assume May, and May is done at the end of the week. So how is that fair to us to even be able to track this? It's not even like you could ask and have seen a small progression continually happening with the monthly budget reports.
Just-
Can't we force them to bill us monthly and say, if we don't get a bill, we're not going to approve anything beyond the 5,000?
Question I have for Jennifer. So Jennifer, if we don't get this from January to date until the end of the first day of July, you can't put that on because you
No, we'll still move it because
under budget on the zoning off the administrator or PC's under budget. Their budget's under.
Well,
So
no, we'll still move it to, so what we do is any expense that comes in even after July 1, we look at when the service occurred. So even if he sends this invoice to us on August 1st, if he says it's for services rendered from July or from January 1st to June 30th, we're going to have to book it back anyways. So
Okay.
my issue is just what is current with their billing and how we could even think about keeping track of that, or you all or we all together could think of keeping track of that if they're not billing on a regular basis.
Right.
Right. And do we know why they are so far behind?
On a separate, I don't know why, but on a separate note, they provided some administrative or support for the stormwater planning grant, the water master plan, and also the master plan, municipal planning grant. And I've been a bit of a nag to them saying, there's some funds, there's some balances still in these projects, and I need them to bill us so that I can close these projects out. And I tell them when the select board is meeting, when we need the invoices by, and so far it's been over a month at least that I've been pressing to get these bills so I can wrap up these projects.
Well, maybe we say you either get us bills or you're going to eat it because we're not going to pay it. This is poor business, poor planning. Totally. Jen, we would know only by your budget estimates once we got it in that, holy crap, we're over by $8,000.
Right. Well, we would have just seen this progress. If they had billed monthly, we would have seen this progressive buildup, and we all know what's going on, and then probably had a conversation a lot sooner than May 26th about $5,000 in services rendered that we haven't paid yet.
Oh, what about the option of paying portions of this? Given, does that make any sense? Or
well, if you don't have an invoice, how do you pay a bill? We can't pay a bill without an invoice, right, Jen?
Correct.
All right. What about the other, where we ask for the invoice, and if they don't get it to us in a certain time period, we're not going to pay a certain percentage of it? Like take off 25%, and we're not going to pay that unless you get us the invoice in on time. But Michelle, you're absolutely right. It's poor business. It's like, how would you even deal with this? Do they even want our money since they haven't asked for our money?
Well, that's just it. It's our money. It's our money that's being, it's everybody's money. It's not just Bristol's money. It's the other communities that I'm sure the same thing's happening to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, there's this situation, but on the other hand, this project is something that the select board and the planning commission have. It's been a high priority to move forward, and if we still need their assistance going forward.
You say it's still under budget, even with this addition. It's still within the scope of that, which is good.
Our planning budget is under.
Right.
But not this line item.
Yeah, this line item is going to end up 150% over.
Right. And I think we leave it that way. We leave it so it shows that it's over, and not like move numbers around.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess we really don't have a choice, I think, because we need to finish this.
But we need to voice our displeasure with this so that it's heard loud and clear.
Right. And we need the invoices.
Mm-hmm.
They need to get up to date with the invoices.
Right.
And I don't know, we give them a date and say, if you don't have them by then guess what? We're either not paying or we're taking a reduction for every day late. A 10% penalty.
Jen, what do you think the auditors would say about that?
I mean, I know it's been done with vehicle purchases before. Pete Bouvier was famous for, you give me a date and you tell me when you're going to have it to me, and if you don't, you're going to take a per day
per diem, yeah,
rate that you're going to lessen it. But as far as that, that's like something that we own and have in our hands and things like that. So I don't know. I mean, maybe Peaker could speak a little bit better to it because it's a service. Like, I mean, do you ever run into contracts with people, Peaker, where like if you don't do something, or if you, I mean, I guess I'm just trying to approach it from the service perspective rather than like we're holding something physical in our hands.
So if I guarantee you a state spec product and I can't produce it, and I've guaranteed it to you for a job like this, we'll use the Main Street job as an example. I guaranteed state spec material for the road work.
Sure.
And if I can't produce that myself, I have to supply it from somewhere. Not exactly the same, but if I couldn't make it, I guess I would have to get it from Pikes or Rathburns or somebody who could furnish the spec material that job calls for.
Haven't we done this in the past with like the people who did the sidewalks, or even the firehouse or whatever, that if it wasn't complete by a certain day, that then there'd be some kind of penalty?
Liquidated damages.
Yeah.
It's just hard. The hard thing is that it's all, the problem in lies is that it's services that have already been rendered.
Right.
It's not even like you have a say over the fact that you don't want them to complete the service. They've already completed the service. They just haven't billed us for $5,000 is really what the issue becomes, or $5,600 or whatever the problem is. So I guess, or the amount is, I mean, so I guess what are they going to say to us if we say we're only going to pay you a portion of this? We want you to eat a cost of this, or can you use it as a tool for your next year negotiations and try to slash, that budget in half and try to do it with your future negotiations? I mean, I just feel like it's been poor communication and it's only services rendered. So it's how do we, I don't know what leverage we have other than the communication piece and the non-invoicing piece, but like, I don't know what kind of leverage that would give us to say we want to pay a reduction because you haven't billed us and we didn't know.
And it's not in our budget.
But it's in the contract either. So now you're like, I guess I just don't know. I'm not saying I'm opposed to it. I'm just saying I don't know what leverage we have as a.
We could say, yeah, we'll pay you the $5,600, but you're doing 4 and 5 on your dime because you haven't invoiced us. You didn't let us know ahead of time that you're going to be over budget.
Right. There's also the option of.
Have we been invoiced for this, or did he just send you an email saying that he had $5,600 worth of invoices to come?
This is the communication.
This is the email. So we still haven't. We still don't have invoices.
Correct.
Okay, so what about the option is so it's going to be a total of 13,000. That's the cap, and we're not going to pay them until all 1 through 5 are complete. And then we'll pay them. And if they go over 13 or whatever our cap is, we're not paying that, and we're not going to pay them anything, regardless of those back invoices that we haven't received until they complete the public hearing process and the town vote.
Right, because we have no idea what those other invoices might show us, right?
Right.
Yeah, we can't just say do the job and we'll pay you whatever.
Right.
You muted yourself, Darla. You're still muted.
My computer's doing its own thing over here.
Gremlins.
Yeah, I mean, I was just saying, if the contracts for 5,000 we're already well over, we don't know what the new invoices are going to show.
Right.
yeah, I mean, how do we know it's not going to be another 5,000 that we're going to get billed?
Right. He could just keep going. That's why I'm saying, can we suggest the cap and we've gone over budget and we're not going to pay you until this work is completed, because it just could continue like this. He could send another email 2 months later and be like, oh, by the way, here's another 5 that we have to do. Like, I think we have to set some sort of limit.
Right, and I think you also have to say if it's not paid by such and such a date, we can't pay it at all.
Right.
If it hasn't been invoiced by such and such a date, yeah.
Like July
That's good.
1st,
Yeah.
something like that. We can't. I mean, we could, but we can't.
Joel, you're awful quiet.
Again, I'm having a sandwich, actually.
Oh.
I guess, but what did you just say, Darrell or Ian? We're not gonna pay it.
He said we're gonna cap it. We should cap it at a certain amount, and they're gonna complete 1 through 5, no matter what it costs them. But all we're paying is this, and we're only gonna pay it if we get the invoices by a certain date.
And we're only going
He
to pay
proposed up to $8,000.
up to what, Darrell? What'd you say? How much? Up to
Valerie, up to 8.
Up to 8, yeah.
That way, it's the only way we have control over this, it seems. Since you're dealing with a business that doesn't seem to want to invoice, this email doesn't give us any control in the matter. By setting a cap and telling them to do the work by this time, and then we'll pay them, at least we have a little bit of control in the matter.
I would really like to see the invoices prior to setting the cap so that we knew right where we were. I mean, this is an email saying, oh, by the way, I'm 5,600 over. Is he 5,600 over? Or is it 58? Or is it 55? I just, without seeing that, how do you know exactly where we are?
So maybe, Val, we go back and tell him, we need the invoices to show exactly what you've done and how much it is, and then we'll discuss the amended contract.
Or could you, I'm just looking at your budget for the new year. Could you decide that you're going to cap it at 11 and either you spend it all this year or you spend it between the 2 years, but you have a $6,000 budget for this year and $5,000 for next year. And if not all, if it goes over, but it's going to be under in the future, like, are we grasping what I'm saying a little bit, maybe?
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but I don't know I don't have no idea what's planned for next year. What are we, we have any major?
And we actually have the money in the budget to pay it this year. That's not the point. The money isn't the point. The point is the way this is going. The point is the way this is going down is not right.
Well, I mean, it could be a point. You're just fortunate enough that your planning and zoning manages to be under. I mean, anybody else's budget, this would be a huge hit to their budget.
Sure would.
It happened that we're fortunate for this particular budget, but anybody else, this could be terrible news, and we could be in a full-blown panic about figuring out what we're going to do.
Right. That's why I think we need to regain control of that and take control of the situation and not let them have it.
But I think, Ian, I agree with you, but we need invoices so we know where we're at before we set a total. Yes. Because if we set it at 13, how do we don't even know where we're at.
Yeah.
If it ends up we're at 6, if it ends up we're at 6 or 7 and instead of 56 and we okay them for another 2,
we need those.
I agree.
Fair enough.
So more detail and invoices before we do anything.
On all our projects through them.
Right.
Okay, are we good with that? Is everybody good with that?
Yep.
Okay. Yep. Moving on. Vacation carryover requests may include deliberation and executive session under personnel matters.
Michelle, did you need a motion on that or anything, or is that just?
I think it's just consensus. At this point, we need more information to make a decision.
Now, does anybody know anything about the Zoom time limits? Because this was scheduled from 7 to 10. I haven't received any notices that we're about to be cut off. Do we know if did they extend it automatically?
Probably.
I have no idea.
Since it's 10:22, we're still going.
Right.
Yeah. Generally, you'll get a notice, but it's usually a good 15 to 30 minutes in, and you have the option to expand it.
Oh.
Okay.
At least that's what happens to me from time to time.
Okay.
All right.
All
So
right, vacation.
do you guys want to talk about this now or in executive session?
Now.
Okay.
So
That's me.
select board members would have received a summary that Jen had produced of everybody's balances right now. And also I emailed you the excerpts of the personnel policy dealing with leave balances and carryovers and things like that. And in the past, it turns out, at least in the last couple of years, when this has come up this time of year, the select board has just applied the terms of the personnel policies to the individual, I mean, to the broadly, I mean, just to everybody, if that makes sense.
So I have a question. So in Jen, in your email, which I'm trying to find right now, and I've just lost. It says our personnel policy, it gives a certain amount of hours of sick time and hours of vacation time. Why are there so many people that are over that? So what's happened? If it's in the personnel policy, why are it somewhat over by so much?
A little bit of carryover from Eric's kind of COVID conversation and about how there's been this, 8-week plus minus chunk of time where, all the time that I have used to be home with my kids and Kale have used to be home with his kids, and everybody who has families or who have had other instances to be home would have used their personal time to go be home or to not be in the office. But because of the restrictions placed by the state and the government and whatnot, those have kind of just gone away. So the problem becomes is that there's this 8-week chunk of time where it's been that they've not been instructed to work or allowed to work per the restrictions, so no one's had to use time to not be here. And B, like, what are we going to do with all these people with time? So it's really not necessarily, I guess, what I had tried to convey to Valerie was really like, if we can give all these employees here's the deal, this is how we're going to deal with this, per this, even with COVID, etc. You're expected to use your time, you're going to lose it, whatever. Then at least now they have the month of June to kind of like use their time or lose it. And you knew, and we've made this decision, and it doesn't matter that COVID has happened, and or are you going to look at it on a case-by-case basis, based on that everybody's scenario was a little bit different because of how each individual was. And I guess the problem being with how much time people have, and is carrying that over really going to hinder whatever happens in the next fiscal year? And that if we get to this time again next year and they still have a ton of time, like, where are we at? Like, that's why we have the restrictions of carryover, so we don't continue to run into this issue of people using large chunks of time that they've saved for years and years and years, but B, so that there's less of a liability if someone decides to get done and how much you have to pay them out. So, whatever you guys all agree to keep on the books becomes a liability if myself or Eric or whoever decides, September 1st, I'm going to be done. And you said, oh, you get to keep all your time from last year, and these already accrued it. We'd have to pay him all that time, or you'd have to pay me all that time. So there's the thought process behind it. So I guess I'm just trying to give, and like hoping that you guys can give employees guidance as far as like, take your time or you're going to lose it, because we're following the personnel policy. It doesn't matter what's happened in the last 8 weeks, or, if you have a specific case you would like to come about, you'd be interested in hearing those cases or whatnot. I just would think it's only fair to give employees a chance to either come to you or use their time if they have time to use, I guess was what I was trying to get at. That's why we're looking at it so early.
So
It's really so early, but go ahead, Peter.
I want Eric to tell us what I told him last year when he wanted to carry over time. Can you remember what I told you, Eric?
Something about you should have used it before.
No, I think I told you, I said, you're not going to use the time you've got now.
Right.
I said, if you use it all, you come to me next year and we'll talk about it. So how many weeks have you got right now, Eric?
On the books, or that
I
I
hate
gotta
to
use?
put you on the spot, but
That's all right. I gotta use
on the book. How many weeks have you got on the books?
5 to use.
I gotta use 5 weeks in order to be able to carry over 2.
So you have 7 weeks.
You guys are making me nauseous. So, but let me ask you this, Jen. So at the end of the year, I'm trying to understand what our personnel policy is because I can't always keep it straight. Sick time converts to vacation time. So then when they carry over that vacation time, is that part of the 80 hours or is that above and beyond the 80 hours?
So what I've always done and how I've kind of operated since it's been me that's doing it is basically I wait till the end of the year, and that if there's extra sick time left, I take that 2-to-1 conversion and I dump it into the next year so they have the opportunity to use it, because it's not fair for them to lose it before they even had a chance to use it, I guess is the way that I've always operated. And Therese was under the same impression, like it was for future use, not like, because you don't know if you're going to have the extra sick time until the end of the year. So you really can't convert it 2-to-1 until the following year.
No, but they know how much sick time they have each year. They know how much sick time is allotted to them.
Right, but they don't know
Every year,
how much they're going to have left.
Right.
So basically what happens is at the end of the year, if you have extra sick time and it's 10 extra hours, then I give you whatever your annual vacation allotment is in July, plus I give you your 5 extra hours from the previous year conversion.
Oh my God.
It's a little messy, but.
Oh my God.
And
this is why we pay out a ton of money when people leave.
Well, right. So that's the liability piece that I was talking about, and not that I want employees to lose time by any means, but that's the risk that we run, is that, any time we agree to let you carry over or keep now is, considered on the books, and that if they left any time in the next year, we'd have to pay them out for that full blown amount of time because they accrued all of that time.
Right. So they don't really get 80 hours they carry over. They get 80 hours plus whatever additional hours they get first that's converted from sick, personal, whatever.
Right. So yes. So they get potentially could get some additional if they had extra sick time. Yep.
So how is it that the personnel policy says employees are allowed to keep 120 hours of sick time, but Eric has 214 hours of sick time? I don't understand how that works. If the personnel policy says a maximum of 120, how does Eric have almost double that?
Does it say sick? I think that should say vacation. Does it say sick?
It says 214.5 of sick time and then 269.5 of vacation.
Yeah.
Jeez, Eric.
So that's
Eric. You can take a year and a half off.
But Ian, that's how he can carry over a certain number of sick time, and then he gets his sick time for the next year.
You get 56 hours of sick time every year is what you get.
On top of whatever you've carried over.
Right.
But then it says anything extra from the 120 hours of sick time is 2 hours extra sick time turns into 1 hour vacation. So I don't understand how he still has managed to accrue that much. Shouldn't that just go to the vacation time?
I have to look at that. Maybe that's the wrong number. I wonder if it's supposed to say 114. Let me pull it up.
And clearly Eric is never sick.
Right. He's the healthiest person around.
I wasn't sick this year, anyways. Knock on wood.
Knock on wood, right?
You know, something that I had, you know, mentioned to Eric was that, you know, would you, for people who, I'm trying to word this the right way. For people who felt like they didn't get the opportunity to use the time in the 8 weeks that COVID has happened or occurred, maybe you all would consider on an individual case request for individuals who had this extra time to keep whatever they would have accrued in that 8 weeks time to carry over and use in the next year. So it wouldn't necessarily be, you know, Eric and I were chatting like whatever, because he accrues at 5 weeks a year. So whatever amount of hours he would have accrued in the 8 weeks of COVID, maybe you all would consider or be willing on a case by case to request to let him just keep that amount to carry over for next year because he was restricted in using the time because he wasn't allowed to work.
Jim, was there
Another
anyone that had, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Wait a minute. Too many people. Valerie, go first.
Another option, I think Eric suggested this or brought it to my attention, is extend the cutoff date from June 30th to August 30th, that people can use that time. Into the
But then they get time for the following year already on the books.
Right.
Darla, go ahead.
I'm just wondering if people had time that they were going to take off in that 8 weeks. Was anyone scheduled to be away during that time that we know of?
I mean, probably not scheduled, but you know how it goes here, Darla. Sometimes it's just like, oh, it's convenient, it's low, it's whatever. I'm going to take a few days off here, a few days off there. So
yeah, no, I just didn't know if anyone had anything already scheduled.
I mean, my personal perspective is that I reaped a benefit because I have a young family. I needed to be home with my children. I didn't have daycare. We were doing the juggle factor. So as far as I'm concerned, I feel like I reaped the benefit of of COVID, which was that you guys were all gracious enough to pay me what my weekly was, and that I was here when I could be here and home with my kids when I needed to be home with my kids. So, you know, my personal perspective, I feel like it's a total wash for me, and that my carryover should be my 80 hours because I've kept that for years, but that I shouldn't, like, I don't want to pay out. I don't want anything because I feel like you guys were more than fair to me. But, you know, someone who doesn't have a young family like Eric and who, you know, runs his department and, you know, like he couldn't work. Plus he couldn't, I mean, like, is it fair to say that in the 8 weeks he should have used his vacation time, even though he really wasn't allowed to work per the governor's orders? Right. Like, you know, like that's what I think is the juggle factor here a little bit.
Yeah.
Everybody's case is a little bit different.
Peeker, yeah. Peeker, did you want to say something? Nicely.
Something nicely. I did this last year, and I'm inclined to do the same thing again this year. Is if you didn't take it, you obviously, you know, everybody that's got time can carry 2 weeks over. That puts our 2 longest term employees at like 7 weeks. They're not going to use all that time. We're going to be right back in the same boat next year. I don't think it's an issue to say we follow the personnel policy and encourage our employees to use their time off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Joel?
Out of the sandwich.
You go to bed?
No, he's just, I think he's thinking, he's unmuting himself.
I've been trying to push CTO since I've been here. At work, they don't care whether you're gone sick, you put in for the time and you just put it CTO. whether it's a doctor's appointment or I just want the day off and go fishing. They don't ask, they don't care. But if you abuse it, you get spoken to about it. And you can carry over 2 weeks and that's it. It's CTO. It's based on every 40 hours. I get 4 hours with my CTO bank, which is 5 weeks and 2 days. And I'd be willing this year only not to carry it through the year. Don't save it till next June. You got till September 1st, 2 months, because these was 8 weeks we've been under this advisory to, and I'd be willing to go 8 weeks. You better use your 5 weeks up and then they surrender. They're gone.
You know, I have to say, you know, my office, in my office, even though we were off, you know, reduced hours, whatever, if you had sick time that you had to use, you were using it. If you were going to a doctor's appointment, you better be putting it down for sick time. It's not, you're paid just because we're not in the office. But, you know, we're also of the opinion that you either use your sick time or there's no carryover. It's not a benefit that gets carried forward.
I get that part, but CTO, I mean, I looked at that and my God, you got to be a CPA to figure it out. You got so many days of sick and sometimes a personal and it's almost a vacation. At the business world, people, it's CTO, combined time off. You get so many hours and that's it, and you use it. I'd be willing, like I said, because he was there for 8 weeks and he really hasn't had an assistant. The first, I would say, up till September 1st, if you only use 2 of your 5, guess what? You're surrendering the other 3 no matter what. You're going to hold his feet to the fire and use them. Don't get to carry them over till next July. We had the same conversation.
Well, this has got to be across the board. You can't just, I mean, we can't just say one person.
You're going to take people individually, make it a case by case.
Mm-hmm. Eric, go ahead.
Doesn't matter to me. I mean, if you guys want to keep it at July 1st, that's fine. I'll take off whatever time I can between now and then. It's like, you know, last year Peakers told me the same thing and I kind of didn't listen, but I'm in the same boat. So it's not a big deal to me. I mean, you guys say July 1st and that's what it is.
Okay.
And the other person that's got the time is Mike, and there is enough time right now for him to take his time off before July 1st and not worry about it.
Jimmy, you got something you want to say?
Yes, you guys are going about this all wrong. It's time that is owed. So if you don't use it by a certain time, you carry over so many weeks, and just pay the guy for the extra time that he has coming to him. You don't have to worry about him taking off then. It's something that it's due to them. They should be getting it. So whether you pay him for it or they take it off, it's still the same. Very simple. That's all. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Joe?
Yeah, Joel.
Okay, I mean, Jen sent everybody's, and the guy down in the lower corner here on the left, Bruce, what are we going to do with, Bruce had a ton
Bruce has got a ton of time.
Say, well, we've been a one-man show since December. Well, we're going to grant him, same argument here.
I think Bruce is a different situation. We have an employment contract with him that has slightly different provisions that we need to consider.
So did he have a better lawyer than Eric had to make his contract?
Apparently.
Apparently. No, but Bruce, I don't mean that, no disrespect, but if we're going to treat employees, we're going to go by the personnel policy, as Peter just said, then Bruce loses his too.
Well, he's got his most of his is CTO.
I thought we didn't have CTO.
Comp time. So, you know, he would get paid for it.
Right.
I mean, any comp time gets paid for.
Maybe we ought to have Sullivan Powers, and no offense, Jeff, maybe we have Sullivan Powers trying to explain this comp versus, as Ian says, how does Eric get 269 hours when you're only supposed to pull over 120?
Well, I feel like we're having 2 different conversations. One is about the personnel policy and one is about the time that we're talking about right now. So what I'm hearing from everybody is that, or for most everybody, is that for this particular piece, that we're going to use the policy. And then if we're going to make changes, that's something we've already said we'll discuss at another time. Am I hearing that right?
I would agree.
Joel?
I guess so. I guess my recommendation to Eric then would be, Eric, sit in your office all day tomorrow, make up a list and say, I'll see you. Here's the list, boys. On the board. I'll see you in July 1. That's what I would do, Eric. Jimmy said they owed to you. I'd be willing to go to September 1st, but if you don't use them then, we gave you plenty of time. They're gone. Literally gone.
Understandably. Like I said, it wouldn't bother me a bit if you left it at July 1st. It wouldn't bother me, not one bit.
Well, it's just that I mean, the time is earned. You shouldn't be using it. You shouldn't have to lose it. We need you to take it.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. If I didn't choose to take the time when I could have, then technically it should be July 1st, which is absolutely fine with me. I have no problem with that.
So
I'd be willing.
Go ahead, Ian.
I was just I'd be willing to support Joel's September 1st. I think we're in an unusual situation, and even if you could take vacation time during this time, it's still a very unusual time to take a vacation. So I think allowing things to open back up and having that extra amount of time, I think would be beneficial to some people who could want to use their time, or who'd like to ask them to use their time.
I mean, my only comment to that is that we've had 10 months prior to that for them to take that time. It's only been 8 weeks. I mean, it's not, and there was no planned vacations during that 8 weeks.
That's what I was asking. Yeah.
Well, that's partly true. I mean, it is true, but it was also winter, and much of those months were winter, which is a challenging time for people to get away.
July to November is not winter. But July to November is not winter.
Getting close
have a
though.
third of the year to use up before.
Yeah, but I got 2 guys that are.
We have employees that use all their time.
What's that, Peter?
We have employees that have used all their time.
Yeah. Eric, you said something I didn't. Somebody talked over you.
You guys are saying November is not a winter month, but I got 2 guys that are gone in November already.
Right. Yeah, I know, hunters.
So.
Yeah.
I also think it's important to remember that we front load all of the time for employees per the personnel policy, so that we can use it during the summer. But the risk that we run that we've had an issue with before is that if employees burn through all their time and then they go and decide to leave in December and they haven't accrued it all, we lose big time.
We sure do.
And we have no recourse on that. So while it stinks to sit here and have to push Eric out the door to go take a vacation, if he uses his 5 weeks, all of July and August, and then he decides to leave November 1st, we have no recourse to get any of that back, because even though it's considered accrued when we decide to pay out, they don't have to pay us back if they use it all and then they leave before it's all been accrued. So, that's its own issue, which again, as Darla said, is another discussion time to be had. But, something to remember is that we do that.
Right.
How could he use it if it hasn't been accrued?
Because we give it to them as of July 1st. They get their 5 weeks on the books. I mean, you could do what like UTC does, and you only accrue, it gets like every week you get a day or whatever it is, so that you can't use it until you've actually accrued it.
Right.
But then the issue with that became that by the time the road crew had accrued a week, it was the winter time,
right.
and they were put in this position of not being able to use time off. So it is a whole juggle, and we're in a unique scenario, and I totally understand and know that, but I guess it's just this, this struggle that we have of the balancing act between, you want them to take all of their time because it's earned and all of that, but you also, don't want them, I guess, to leave and leave us in a lurch of that they've taken too much time and we have no way to get any kind of recourse.
Well, that's apparently a risk the select board in the past decided was worth taking when they passed the policy. So we're on the hook for that unless we change it. And that that would be a nightmare for you, Jen, to try and keep track.
Well, I'm all for putting it on the books as of July 1, but if you were considering, or we were considering altering the personnel policy, I would love to see something in there that says, when you give us your 2 weeks notice, if you've overused what you would have accrued in time, you owe it back to the town within your last 2 weeks, so that if I've used all my 3 weeks, by September 1st, and then I decide to leave December 31st, you guys say to me, well, you owe us some money, because
then they'd probably just walk right out the door and say, I'm done.
Oh, no, but I mean, you deduct, you have to give 2 weeks notice, so you could deduct from their last couple weeks of pay to make it all equal out. But that's something I would encourage seeing change. I like having it all separated out because I use mine for different things. So I like having sick, vacation, personal separate.
See, I don't have to worry about paying any back.
For the rest of your life.
Right, Darla?
Joel?
Jennifer, do you send out quarterly reports to the employees that said, it's January 1 and you got 7 weeks vacation left and 100 hours of sick time? And
I usually give everyone till April, and then in April I start poking. It's Eric's favorite time to come in and drop his time cards off and me to say, when do you think you're using all your vacation?
So it's not just Peeker that gives you that crap, huh, Eric?
Basically give them 1 quarter to decide, because, knock on wood, normally in April, we're pretty close to being in the clear as far as most winter items go. So I try to start pushing at that point and reminding people, hey, you have time to kill. And you have till June 30th to do it. So I usually wait, Joel, and give them kind of 9 months to figure it out on their own.
okay.
So are we in agreement? We're going to do the personnel policy? Is that the general consensus? Peeker's on board with that. Darla, Ian?
I think so, yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So what about the extension to September 1?
I think that's what we're saying. We're going to do it with according to the personnel policy.
Yeah.
But extended or not?
No. That's my impression, right?
Not.
Darla, Ian?
Yeah, that's what I understood.
That's fine.
Jolie, you okay with that?
Nope.
Jolie wants to extend it, but the rest of us are on board with
2
just.
months. I don't want to extend it 12, only 2 months. 2 months, that's all he gets. We're an extra.
He's not going to use the 7 weeks he's got next year either, Joel.
Huh?
There might be a time.
Might be none. Come on, you got a camper. Will you go camping for weeks?
I can't go camping now. They won't let me.
True.
Challenge.
You can camp in your backyard for 10.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay, are we good?
Right
now?
next to his father-in-law.
Yeah.
Okay, are we good?
I think so.
So is that a motion or a consensus -1?
Do we need a motion?
I'll make the motion that we follow the personnel policy for vacation and sick time.
Somebody want a second?
I'll second it.
Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
But we'll visit the police contract. So this is exclusive of the police contract?
Yeah, it's gonna have to be, yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any opposed?
Yep.
Okay. All right, moving
Eric,
on.
Eric, stick around.
Stick around?
Stick around.
He's been sticking around for 4 hours.
Poor guy.
Okay.
Let him take vacation.
Approval of the minutes. What do we have? February 17th, May 11th, and May 18th.
Yeah.
I sent Val my minor changes. nothing major. So
You and the machine at work, you mean?
me and the machine at work.
Don't you run it through the machine at work to spell check them?
No, I don't because they're PDF.
I just have one change for the 17. It's Chair Joe Bouvier and then Vice Joe
Ugh.
Bouvier.
Yeah, that's what that was one of my changes.
I didn't realize he was both.
The all powerful.
Okay, somebody want to make a motion to approve the minutes with the changes?
No, I see.
So moved.
So moved.
Second? Ian seconded, Tasha. Any more
Is that
discussion?
just the one or all three?
All three.
Okay.
Any more discussion? Everyone in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carried.
Thank you.
I do have one other thing.
Yes?
As a request, if you're changing the meeting night, would you please let me know?
Sure.
Because I was not aware of yesterday being changed to tonight until at 7 o'clock yesterday when there was no one on the meeting.
Well, I think we had changed it a while ago when we were talking about our schedule, I think.
You discussed it, but I don't think it was ever.
It's always on at the bottom of every agenda are the next 2 meeting dates.
I know, but at the board clerk, you probably should just give me a heads up. And I don't look at that on the agenda. I look at the notes and that's the item numbers and that's it. I don't look at, because I'm assuming you guys will let me know when that happens and it's changing.
Okay.
So
Duly noted. We'll try to remember that.
that's a good
remember that.
communication.
And Michelle, we changed that on the night of the
know.
special meeting.
What's that?
We changed that on that special meeting night where we didn't, was only on the contract for Acorn.
Oh, did we?
No, actually, when we did the goals and priorities on those calendars, we talked about.
Right, that's what I thought.
Yeah, twice.
Talked about it, but you didn't
That was in
I
the
don't-
calendar.
I don't think it was mentioned that hey, Memorial Day, we're meeting Tuesday. I think
Actually,
it was.
it was. But point well taken.
It was mentioned. It was mentioned at our special meeting. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been here. I'd have been signing on last night too.
Exactly.
Well, I know we talked about it when we did the actual calendar. So, because we were talking about.
I know that's.
We're going to be here.
I know that's when it was decided, but I wouldn't have known because I would have tried to sign on last night too if it hadn't been mentioned.
Right. It's automatic. It's just automatic that it's a Monday. And I mentioned it last time. I said, see everyone on Tuesday. And everyone was like, what's happening on Tuesday?
Exactly.
So, Tasha, we will try to remember that.
Yes.
Okay, warrant, accounts payable warrant and liquor licenses. I don't remember what the number was. Do you have the number, Val, to give to Tasha? Tasha, do you have the number?
Yeah, I have it, but I don't know if for camera you just want to mention the number.
Yeah, I don't have the number in front of me. Does somebody
I
have
do.
it?
I do. It's $65,295.47.
Thank you.
Done.
Did anybody have any questions about it? I mean, whatever questions I had, I asked Jen, so. Okay. Next, select board roundtable. Joel, let's start with you.
I got nothing.
Ian,
I am good.
Peeker,
I've had enough.
Darla,
I had one email come to me about someone who was concerned about 4th of July, but I think that's been answered this evening.
Yes, I saw a lot of that on Front Porch Forum.
Oh, yeah.
And I think I am good. Okay. Town administrator's report.
I do have a few things that I didn't have time to put on my report. Happy to report that the Stony Hill Business Park project, the infrastructure project, had its first kickoff meeting this past week. It went very well. We're going to meet every other week initially, and we'll probably move to weekly meetings as it goes forward. So that's happening. Related to that, the Stony Hill pedestrian facility, path, sidewalk scoping study that the Regional Planning Commission is helping to support That's moving along. They had put out an online survey that received 81 responses by the time it was turned off. So you'll be seeing more information about that. One of the next steps with that is for us to reach out to the 2 private property owners that are along Route 17, because some of the favored alignments or the more optimum alignments might be off of the right of way and actually go into those private properties. But that's something that we need to, that's the next step to look into. If you hadn't noticed, in the other business correspondence section, we received word earlier this month from the ISO insurance rating company that the town of Bristol, thanks to the hard work of the fire department and Jill and Cyrus with the water system, that the town's insurance rating, the ISO rating, improved. It's hard for me to explain what the differences mean in the different ratings, but if you have a chance to glance at Brett's email and the letter that came with that, it's in the other business section. It's a benefit to the community and to insurance ratepayers, and it's not easy to achieve. It takes a lot of work, and so it's major kudos to the fire department. Still reaching out to the Forest and Parks Division about the Emerald Ash Borer and the strategic plan committee that we're trying to put together, trying to navigate how to move forward in this particular time of getting people together for training and then to actually go out and do the surveying of the trees. So hoping to get that back on track, but it's still a little bit stalled. As I mentioned earlier, talking about the Regional Planning Commission and some of the open grants that they've been assisting us with, a lot of my time these last few weeks have been dealing with a lot of grant administration, especially as we get closer to the end of the fiscal year. So there's been a lot of reporting and just a lot of record keeping and just the budget, managing the budgets, and we did manage to put those 3 grant applications in last Friday. VTrans, the AARP benches, and the emergency watershed program. So that's good. We'll wait to hear on those. And that's all I have for now.
Thank you. Joel?
Just a question, Valerie. With the scoping study that's going down over the hill, had they looked at when the business park is up, going a sidewalk from there down to Lover's Lane, and you're almost across from because that's quite the reason we run the water line down that way, because it was shorter distance. Are they? Well,
not necessarily. That was out of the project area. I don't know the answer to that. I think their focus has been along the highway right-of-way corridor and the areas immediately adjacent to that.
I mean, Peter remembers that's one of the reasons why years ago we were going to put a water line down around Stony Hill, connect Lover's Lane, and then went down over the top. Instead, it was shorter distance between 2 points. And I wonder.
It's not to say that it couldn't happen independently. It could happen both ways if either of them happen. But I'll bring it.
Because I think the focus was on looking at town property first before private. And so I think that's why with that scoping study that was how it was determined initially. But that I'm sure we could sort of, given that we're looking, or the project is looking at wider areas too through private property, that could be one area that we might be able to look at as well, or at least suggest at our next meeting.
I would think there's going to be a sidewalk all the way out to the business park.
Right.
Hopefully in one fashion or another.
Yeah.
Right.
Do we have an executive session tonight, Val, or?
Well, no. Well, unless you want to continue with the discussion about vacation with the police contract. No, the contract negotiation.
What about the contract with the union? Bruce had
no, that's postponed till the next meeting.
Okay.
Why did you want Eric stay by?
I thought we were going to discuss the police department's
Oh,
vacation time.
yeah.
Well, Eric wouldn't need to be there for that.
No, if it was going to be public. I want to make sure we're doing all the same. We're going
Well, you can't because Bruce is under a contract.
Isn't Eric?
That employment contract doesn't have specific provisions about vacation.
Right. This goes by the personnel policy. Okay. People, how do you feel? Do we need to discuss that, or did you say you had to look at the contract though first, right, Val?
I did.
Okay.
Or, I mean, it's not time sensitive. We can do it another time.
Do it next. Let's do it next time.
Okay.
Considering it's
The union
part of-
contract will
11
be there
o'clock.
too.
It's 11 o'clock. I'm a little punch happy, whatever.
It's only been 4 hours and 11 minutes.
Is that all?
Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Thank you.
Good
Night,
night.
everyone.